Perfect.
Hello, one and all, and welcome back to Final Drive Simulation. Hello guys, and welcome to Final Drive Simulation, and we're back and we have an endurance week, and we are really looking forward to this one. It's the long endurance race in the middle of the season, and your endurance coverage comes to you live from Donington Park, and we are at the Grand Prix circuit, which is the longer configuration at Donington Park. So qualifying, we are roughly halfway through, is 15 minutes, and the race is 1 hour and 20 minutes, and we have variable weather and day to night race, so we've got variable times, variable weathers, which will keep all the drivers on their toes. As always, your comms team is myself, Mike Mullen on comms, we got Dougie, and we got Aaron will be joining us very, very shortly. Sorry for the delayed start, everybody, but unfortunately some family commitments got in the way, so I was a little bit late getting everything up and running, but we're here now, and luckily we're catching most of quali. So there is your race calendar as normal. There's your race table, there's your drivers table, there's your teams table. I'm not going to spend too much time on those because we have missed out on a bit already, so we're going to get straight into the action and take a look at where everybody is. So as you can see, one of our newcomers who had a great debut at the 2 sprint races last week, Dougie Brunner, he is currently top of the timing charts with a 127.9, which is pretty rapid time around here. It's a track we know well, Donny, isn't it, Dougie, from our touring car days, and I'm sure you've probably been there for a race or two in your life. A great circuit, isn't it?
Definitely, I love Donington myself, but one of my personal favourites. And I actually went there to watch a British GT racing, actually. I went there myself, and it's great to see as you're coming down the S's. It's some of the angles the car come down at are scary in real life.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get a real feel for the elevation changes in games like this, do you? But it's very much up and down the hills, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's scary to watch.
Yeah, it's kind of, well, I suppose lots of tracks are like it, but it's kind of like a mini Nürburgring, but I suppose people say that about Alton Park and others as well. So everything's a mini Nürburgring if you look.
Yeah, everything's a Nürburgring, yeah.
If you look close enough, everything's a mini Nordschleife. Anyway, yeah, so here we are, and Brunner currently top of the timing charts with a pretty quick 27.9. I know with the newest software updates and current tyre configuration, etc., that is a pretty quick time. Foster very, very close, 0.123 of a second behind him, currently in second place. Adam Foster in the Porsche. The tracks, as Adam has said in previous weeks, starting to come towards him. We've got Wes Beerkhouse then currently in third, back towards the kind of pace we expected to see from Wes. Great to see Dominic Engel back. He's in the Mountain Dew Lexus, and I think we've managed to get all of the liveries loaded this week after some techie issues. Managed to finally put that master's degree I got to good use and pull my finger out fairly. He's had a couple of cracking races since joining this league, and bang on form again, currently in fifth, 0.8 of a second off the lead, but he may well be set up more for race pace. We don't know yet at this point. We will find out. Bart Tonks, it looks like the Audi is more suited. You're seeing Wes and Bart, towards the top. It certainly seems that this track is a good one for the Audi, as we see Bart get a little bit too eager on the gas and go a little bit wide. We've got my personal favourite liveried car, the Ash Humphreys number 44. He's just gone across the line and put himself up ahead of Tonks, up into 6th in that McLaren in the Gulf livery. Then you got Lloyd Reid in the Mercurari, the Ferrari branded McLaren, which is one of the strangest things we've seen. But he's doing another good job. He had a cracking week last week, didn't he, Doug? And good to see he's keeping that form going.
Definitely, it's always good to see, because sometimes you can obviously have a one-off very good performance. I've done it myself, and it's always good to try and maintain that level of performance.
Yeah, and the McLaren isn't the easiest car on here to drive. It is very quick, but good to see he's getting a bit of consistency. And Scott Balsillie next up in the 85 BMW, and the Englishman has had not downplay him, but he has had a disappointing season. He was really strong in season 1, and it just doesn't seem to have clicked for him this year. But that could be updates. Perhaps the BMW is not as strong as it once was. It's a strange one, isn't it, Doug? Because out of nowhere, really, he's just sort of gone mid-pack, where he was ahead of the field, for much of season 1.
Yeah, it is strange. Am I right in saying that he was a different car last season?
No, same car.
Same car. Who?
Yeah, which is what's strange, because most people have moved away from the BMW because it was so dominant last year, and they didn't want a BMW-centric grid, so they kind of had a gentleman's agreement, really, to move away from the BMW and try other cars. Excuse me. But yeah, he stuck with it, but yeah, just off the pace, which is, as we say, a bit strange. As we've been chatting away there, Wes has actually gone onto pole position, so he's a 10th of a second ahead of Brunner now, and up on pole position. And great lap from Wes in the Audi. And Schaaf now up into 4th. He's set a good lap time, 28.2. So cracking lap time there from the German driver. That's pushed Ingle down to 5th. So where were we? We were at Damien Humphreys. He is in the pit lane. I think he's a driver who doesn't tend to do too much in terms of quality. He tends to set himself up for the races, so perhaps that's it, and he's just leaving it at that. Morris, who's had some good results, currently in 13th. I think he won the 2nd sprint race at Spa, if I'm right.
That sounds right to me.
Yeah, I think yes.
He's definitely had a win.
Yeah, so yes, because he took advantage of the issues that Foster and all them were having, didn't he? And took the win. So yeah, currently in 13th. So not his strongest performance, but he's still got some pace in that car. He's currently, as you can see on the timing screens there, half a second up. Not anymore, because he's given up. But maybe he's going to go again. Weavers currently in the pits in the other BMW, and we've got a Red Bull livery. I'm enjoying seeing all these new liveries. So a Red Bull branded BMW and a Ferrari branded McLaren. This is all getting really confusing. Mefferson way off the pace. Not a strong track for the Honda, granted, which you'll see shortly when I show you my track guide, which I drive in the Honda, as you will have seen. But yeah, not a particularly strong track for the Honda. But yes, surprised to see Mefferson, who's usually sort of a top 5 driver, that far down the order. Then comes Rich Arnold in the second of the Rad cars. So we've missed Davis. We'll just skip him quickly. He's got himself up into 8th during us talking in the first place Rad car, and the second place Rad car of Arnold currently down in 16th. Now he's just come back off 2 weeks away from the racing, so he's probably a little rusty, I would imagine. Lanzalotta back this week. The American is currently in 17th in the McLaren. He usually races better than he qualifies, doesn't he, Doug? So I'm expecting to see him improve as the race goes on.
I think you will see him climbing a rank slowly.
Yeah, I mean, he always seems to sort of end up in the sort of top 10. So perhaps he, again, being American, it might be a track that he's not that familiar with. Because, of course, the World GT doesn't race here, only the British GT. So, it might not be one everybody's familiar with. And currently in last place, in 18th, is Dan Stevens, but he hasn't actually set a time, so I don't know whether he was late into the lobby. And during that, we have got Foster, who has got himself pole position. So who's still on a lap and who can improve? Ash Humphreys, I think, is the only one really who can make up many positions. Or possibly Mefferson as well, who's a little bit further down the road. So we'll go to Mefferson first. He is currently 3/10 up and heading down towards the final hairpin to go onto the start, finish straight. If he gets this right, he could move up 2 positions. He's got a good exit, and he crosses the line and stays the same, doesn't improve. And Humphreys also doesn't improve. So there we go. That was an anticlimax if ever I saw one. But there we go. So that is your starting grid, and Foster on pole for the first time this season by 0.065 from Wes Bakehouse. So there is clearly a lot of pace in those cars, which we haven't seen at previous tracks. So that is interesting to see the difference there. So I'm just going to get this.
I've just noticed the top 7 are within a second of each other.
Yeah, I mean, that is cracking, and that obviously should bode for a really, really good race, because that's what you want, really, is people being super close together and having that pace. And you know, some of these may well, as we said, have set up more towards the race, and you know, have that in mind. So I just noticed we've got a guest in our comms box, and I'd like very much to welcome Mr. Richard Arnold to the comms box. How are you doing, Rich?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Yeah, not too bad, my friend. How are we all doing?
Yeah, we're doing good. We're doing good. We were a little bit late starting because I had a bit of a family emergency for a moment, but all sorted, and we are away. So, 16th, I believe, for yourself.
Yeah.
A little rusty coming back off a couple of weeks away, so I would imagine. So just taking it steady, finding your feet, and hoping for a race of attrition for others where you can kind of make your way forward.
But yeah, a little bit. I mean, to be fair, we've been practicing for a few days now, and it's this race is changeable weather. That is the whole point of it, and it's constantly wet throughout practice. And that qualifying session was the first bit of sunshine we've had in 4 days. So it caught everybody out. So we're all sat there in the pit lane waiting to go, and then it was like, oh, there's sunshine. What do we do? So there was a massive, rush to change setups and tyre pressures and God knows what. And my first stint, the pressures were far too high. I didn't have anything set up for the race. And then second time, just couldn't get it. I'm set up for the wet, and this is that, and that was as bone dry as you can get.
Yep, fair enough. I mean, I can see the the clock is ticking down. You've done your setup now? You're loaded, ready to go?
Yeah, thankfully ACC is very good. It gives you a little bit of a forecast, and it's looking like this is going to get wet in about 10 to 15 minutes. So yeah, we're back on the wet racing. It's going to be interesting. It's a greasy track to start with, but got wet tyres on. Assuming everyone's going to do the same, but yeah, look like it's going to be heavy rain in about half an hour. Okay,
so you're starting on the wets despite the rain not being in yet, then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's for the amount of time it will take to get a pit in. Actually, funny enough, the wets work pretty well on this track. As long as it's not dry, greasy, anything above greasy, the wets actually perform pretty well. So you can get round pretty well. What you don't want to do is be stuck in with slicks on a wet track.
Indeed. Is it a track you're familiar with, and if so, is it a particular section you struggle with or enjoy the best?
This is one of the tracks that, out of all of them, I'm used to telling you guys that I have no clue about any of the tracks we drive, but this is one that I've actually driven around a few times. So yes, Donington I like. It's a nice track. It's flowing track. The Kramer curves, I think, are probably one of the best complexes in the whole of motorsport. I love the thing. It's struggling with the GT3s, a little bit around the hairpins. The hairpins I struggle with, just getting the power down in the Ferrari. It's not got very smooth power delivery, shall we say. So it's one of those. For some reason my car's decided to stop. There we go. It's because I'm chatting to you. But yeah, no, apart from that, no, I'm pretty comfortable around the track. The track's a nice track. I enjoy it. Know it pretty well. So yeah, long endurance race. Looking forward to sitting back, not taking too many chances when they don't need to be taken, and yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean the forecast was wrong because that 15-minute window was hit already. It's already raining, as you guys will be able to see
long at all, did it?
on the screen. Yeah, so that did not take long, not long at all. But it's already raining, so that hopefully will lead to an interesting opening couple of laps for us. So we'll let you get on with your race prep. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a good one, and we'll catch you a bit later on.
Speak to you later on, boys. Have a good one.
Cheers, Rich. So there we have it, and we are ready to go racing. So I believe our other co-commentator, Aaron Markham, has managed to make it into the comms box.
Good evening.
Good evening, Aaron. So just to catch you up, we're at Donington Park. We are at a wet race. It was dry for quali, but the race has now started wet. But the weather is set of variables, so it could dry up and then get wet again, or it could just be wet, it could just be dry. We have no idea at this point. We will just have to wait and see. Yeah, so Donny, what's your thoughts on Donny?
Lovely track. I wish Race Room had it because I love Donington. Are we doing the full layout or are we doing the short layout?
ACC only has the full GP track, so it doesn't have the shorter layout. So yeah, because the GT cars only and the tyre barrier's gone walkies there, as you guys will see. But yes, so we only have the full layout on this one. So of course you've got the 2 extra hairpins, which is always fun for a bit of overtaking, I think, isn't it, Doug?
Yeah, definitely. I think, as we discussed last week, he's got big braking zones is a good place to get more moves done. So I think we can see a few moves down into the hairpins.
Indeed. So these drivers are just making their way towards the last corner now, and so we've got Foster on pole, Beerhouse in second. These two have been a little bit off the pace in the opening races, as their cars weren't suited to those tracks. Now the track has come towards them. Are we going to see these two go on to try and dominate the championship? But despite the car not suiting the tracks, Adam Foster still leads the championship. So
green light, go,
there
go,
we
go.
go, we've got it. It's a green light, it's foot flat to the floor, and away we go down towards the first corner. And Beerhouse a little bit later on the brakes, but Foster's got the inside line, so he just keeps the position there. Forces Wes a little bit wide. You can see the car squirreling.
Contact in the background.
And Brunner's got past because he got off onto the grass and a little bit wet there, and sorry, the timing screens are jumping all over the place because there's been some contact, as my co-comments guys said there in the background, and I think it was Bart Tonks who's gone backwards, and he's now down in 10th position, and Damien Humphries has lost a few positions off the start as well. So here we go, Foster still leading, but Brunner up now to second, and Beerhouse, who got onto the grass, is down to third, with Ingle up to 4th position. So Foster, I mean, the rear engine in these kinds of conditions, Aaron, you think could give him that little bit of extra traction, which is exactly what you need, really, isn't it, in these wet conditions?
Yeah, 100%. And we know, well, Donington's not a particularly horsepower heavy track as well, so maybe it's that car, you know, I'm just trying to think. It's going to be a place that suits the Porsche down to a T almost, so no surprise to see Foster out there.
Yeah, and Beerhouse has managed to get past Brunner as well as they go into the hairpin, and gets himself back up to second, so good move there from Wes as the drivers cross the line for the first time to start the second lap. And of course this is a 2-hour endurance race, so it's going to be a long old race for these guys. Longest race of the season. They normally only do 90 minutes for endurance, 80 minutes sorry for endurance, so another 40 minutes on top of that, another 50% of race distance. So going to be a long old night for these guys dug in it, and it's easy to get too keen too fast and ruin, you know, the next hour and 50 minutes before it's even started.
Definitely, I think patience is key, and keeping that consistency. I think keeping your nose clean, as we always say, definitely helps, and you can get consistent lap times, and as I said, keep the car on track, and you're doing well.
Yeah, Scharf with another mistake, Brunner with another mistake, both losing positions, and Dom Ingle now up into third in the Mountain Dew Lexus. He's always got an interesting livery, Don. He had the Hulk Bentley last season, and now he's got the Mountain Dew Lexus this season. So always got an interesting livery for us to look at. So yes, we are just coming towards the end of the second lap. Drivers just settling down now, trying to find a way into a rhythm. But in the same way, Dougie, as you mentioned, the top 10 qualified within a second of each other. All of the top 10 are still within a second of themselves. You know, each one is within a second of each other. So still really close in this early stage. And
Someone's just going into the pits.
Brunner's into the pits. So I think Brunner might have started on dry tyres.
Ooh.
So I think he's gone in for an early pit to get the wets on. If he stops, yeah, I think that must be it. Because we were speaking, obviously, as you guys would have heard, to Rich Arnold during the formation lap, and he'd started on the wets with the intention that it was going to rain in 15 minutes' time, but the rain started before they even set off for the formation lap. So some of these drivers might have thought, you know what, if I can get, you know, a 10-15 second gap, and it might mean with, you know, the scheduling of the fuel stops that I don't have to stop again later on, that might have been a worthwhile risk on dry tyres, but it might have caught the odd driver out here, I think. What do you think, boys?
No, especially if Richard could forecast that 15-30 minutes, I think it should have caught a few out, because I think if it was me and I seen 15 half an hour, I would have gone on slicks just to try and get ahead and try and make up a few positions quickly and go for a pit stop.
Yeah, and I think... sorry, go on, Aaron.
I was just going to say, I agree with Luke. Everything pointed to that being a try start until the formation lap, so my heart goes out 21 on slick tyres there.
Yeah, and the thing is, for the first lap or two, you would have kept the heat in the tyres, so it wouldn't have been too bad. But as obviously the track has just got wetter and wetter, and the tyres have got colder and colder, he's basically ended up with nigh on no grip. But so he's come out in 16th position at the moment, but still a long old way to go. So yeah, I mean, it shows how wet it is. You know, the quali lap was a 27.2, I think, in the end, was it, somewhere around there, and they're doing 35.2s in the race. So you know, you can see the conditions are considerably poorer than what they were for qualifying, but it's rained all through the practice sessions, so these guys are well versed in these wet conditions. So Mefferson has just... Oh, and there's a car off there. Trying to get that. Lands a lot that he's just sort of parked it off there.
He's not long been in the pits, Mike. Actually, he's just come out, I think.
So I think he may have accidentally put the wrong tyres on, maybe, or something. But anyway, I just noticed Mefferson had made a move, so let's see if we can see if that was an overtake on Scott Balsini. So here they are coming into the final hairpin. Scott runs a little bit wide, gets his braking wrong, so Mefferson with a better drive out the corner. And looks like he's going to try and go around the outside into turn one, Aaron.
Bit of a bold move. You wouldn't overtake there unless he gets the switchback, which it looks like he has done. Down into the sector 1 time, Beacon.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did. He got the switchback. Absolutely perfect. Lovely job. And classic move there, I think. And you can see the stricken McLaren there.
I think you've put a move on me like that.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I saw Tonks was going down, so I thought while we were in replay mode, we'd just have a look at what happened to Bar Tonks, and he's just lost it, basically, and off he went, and he's down now to 14th position. Sorry, you were going to say, Aaron, I did a move like that on you, did I?
You've definitely pulled a move like that on me here at this track when you were my teammate in the touring cars.
Oh, in the old Project Cars 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll be glad to see any TCSRL followers that myself and Aaron will be teammates again next season in the Honda FK8, and we'll be running the world. So, interestingly, you know, it's not related to Final Drive Sim Racing, so apologies folks, but we'll just say I did work out earlier, actually, Aaron, that if we were teammates this season, we'd actually be third in the championship and not far off second. So, yeah, you know, we'll be competitive next year. Anyway, back to Final Drive. for some reason. And what we didn't get a chance to do earlier, as Mefferson I can see has made a move again, so he's making his way through the order. Qualified surprisingly low down, but he's managed to get up past Davis now and up to 8th position. And Davis under a bit of pressure from Scott Balseeley as well, who isn't too far back and giving it a good old go. But yeah, I think these guys have just settled down for the moment. Yeah, so we'll just have a quick look at the tables, because we didn't get really a chance earlier because obviously we were late coming into qualifying due to my slight emergency. So Adam Foster is leading the championship on 189 points, and that is just purely due to the fact he's been at every race and finished every race. You know, he's been quick, but that car has not been suited to those opening few races. But he's been there every week. But drop scores will kick in for one of the sprint races and one of the endurance races. The worst of each gets lost, as we see Mefferson losing places in the background there. He's just gone off and he's lost those 2 places that he made up, and he's back down to 10th. And Balseeley's got past Davis in that as well, and up to 8th. Yes, so Foster, just through consistency more than anything, is top now. But the car, as we've said, the car is coming to the track, so the track is coming to the car, which way around you want to say it. So he could be dominant from this point out, as he was last season. And your top AM driver at the moment is Davis in the Ferrari, and the team's table looks like this, with Reed and Mefferson way out in front on 308 points. So Mefferson proving there, Dougie, just how easy it is to make a mistake in these conditions, and particularly at what is a tricky track as well.
Definitely, it's so easy to put a foot wrong, and if you, as we've seen, if you put it on the grass, you're going to lose a few places. And as we said before, it's a long old race, so you want to try and minimise as many mistakes as possible, especially in these early few minutes.
There's nothing more frustrating, Aaron, is there, than when you've just made up 2 positions with 2 great overtakes, and then you bin it.
You're giving me war flashbacks, because I think I did that last night.
You weren't there, man. You don't know.
No, but you couldn't be any more right, Mike. The amount of times we can all vouch for it. The amount of times we put a move on someone and you immediately give the place back through a mistake, and it's all the hard work you put in for laps just wasted. Oh, I know how you feel with that one.
Yeah, Mefferson has got back past Davis and up into 9th place, so he's doing a good job when he's keeping it on the track. So as long as he can keep it on the grey stuff, it looks like he will be making some progress in this race. It's super close still, all the way through the field from the 1st down to 14th, are all within a second or 2 of each other. So there's no real big gaps other than the guys who've had to make early pit stops. There's a bit of a gap back to those guys a bit further on. The lead, battle for the lead is a 3-way battle at the moment, all within a second. So you have got Foster leading Bierkhaus, leading Ingle, so they are all pretty close together, as you can see. Just a second covering those top 3, and the track just getting wetter and wetter and wetter. It is set to variable, as I said earlier, folks, and it will be getting dark. So the question is, will it get dry before it gets dark, or will they be racing like they had to in Monza in the rain? I mean, Monza's one thing in the rain, because you've got the long straights to give you that bit of peace and that bit of a rest to the brain, Dougie, haven't you? But this place, I mean, you haven't really got that much time to recover and rest, because it's just so full on all the time, isn't it?
Definitely, I think concentration and stamina is going to be key to this, because as you said, he's not very many long straights to be able to just rest and relax. It's a corner after corner, really.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the track. Everything seems to have just settled down for the moment. As I said that, we see Damien Humphries, he's pulling over for, he's been lapped already, so he's already had to make a pit stop, which is why he is currently a lap down. Yeah, it's just settled down for the moment, and as soon as we're talking about the track, we'll just take a quick look at my track guide that I managed to get some time to do earlier on this week. So here is my track guide. Hi guys, and welcome to another track guide. And we are at Donington Park this week, and we've got the 2-hour endurance race, so it's going to be a big challenge for the drivers. So let's take a look at the track and see what they're going to have to contend with.
Green light, go, go, go.
Again, in hot lap modes, we're just starting towards the end of the track, and of course this is the GP track. Those familiar with British touring car racing may be more familiar with the shorter track, which doesn't include that second section, but they are supposed to be using this layout for next season. But anyway, the GT racing uses the full GP track. So here we go, across the start finish line, down to the first corner, down to second gear, back on the power as quickly as you can. Difficult, twisty downhill section here, very easy to understeer and go down to third, get the car turned in, back on the power nice and early for the uphill section. 2 kinks left. For you back on the brakes, down to second, get the car turned in, back on the power. Right up towards the second half of the circuit, back down to second. Get the car turned in again, patiently back on the throttle, too early and you will lose a rear end, and spin them round. Heading down now towards the chicane, going to be heavy on the brakes right about there, get it turned in, through the chicane, and down towards the hairpin. Temptation is to brake too early for this corner, and you can lose a lot of time by doing that. Round the hairpin, back on the power, a little wide there. Down to the next hairpin. Get the car turned in nice. On the power. And over the start finish straight. And there we go, that is a lap of Donington. So there we go, folks. So that is just basically giving you an idea of what these drivers are up against in terms of the challenge. And you can see it's up, it's down, it's left, it's right. There's a lot going on, but it's such a rewarding track to get right, isn't it, Aaron? It's one of those where once you nail it, it's just got that good feeling about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we talk so much about keeping momentum up in these cars, but I feel like this is maybe it's a track that rewards you for being a bit smoother and holding back a bit. You know, I think of how many times we've raced there, you can so easily overstep the limit, and it's so easy to lose lap time chasing it. I think this is one of the rare places that these guys will go to where you can afford to be a lot smoother and gain in the lap time, as we see a move there for Dominic Ingle.
We do, and he's got up past Wes Bakehouse, who just made a mistake into the hairpin and ran just that little bit wide. And I covered that in my track guide. The temptation into that, the first of those last 2 hairpins, is to brake just that little bit too late, isn't it, Doug? And when you do, that's what happens. You just run way too wide, and then you're picked off.
Definitely, I've done that many a times where you're just trying to get that braking point as late as possible, and sometimes later isn't always better.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a slow in, fast out, as they say, isn't it, Aaron? And you know, fast in, fast out doesn't always work at this circuit particularly.
No, absolutely. Especially with how many they're not really stop-start corners, but you are coming from high speed to considerably lower speed. In corners like that, you do have to be slow and fast out.
So we got the 2 Ferraris sandwiching Scott Balseeley in his BMW at the moment. And they've just gone through Old Hairpin and making their way up the opposite side now. And then you've got Reed just behind in the McRae, and he's doing a stellar job as well in these difficult conditions. So these guys all battling away now. So Davis leads Balseeley, leads Arnold, leads Reed, leads Tonks, all separated by about 1.5 seconds. So we'll just keep an eye on this this little battle and see what comes of it. But it's proper close in really difficult conditions so far, and not easy for these guys.
Interesting to see a couple of different lines, Mike. As we were coming into Sector 2 there, you could see some of the guys were closest to the apex, some of the guys willing to take a bit of a wider line. And I wonder if that's just corner preference or if sprays becoming a bit of an issue.
I think it'll be a combination. I mean, it's quite realistic in that you can be quicker offline, like in real life, as you guys will know, and for our viewers. And often the racing line is the slower line in the wet conditions, because it's where the rubber is, and water on top of rubber equals slippery. And the dirty side of the track, obviously with all that grit and nonsense, is often grippier in wet conditions. So it could be a bit of driving offline, as you can see there. Another example there of Scott taking a slightly different line and getting a much better drive out of that corner. But the Ferrari just comes back and just gets ahead of him, and they fall back into position for old Hairpin. Bartox goes flying around in the background. He's not had the best of times. And now he can't get off the grass. A bit of a disaster for Bart. So it can be that. It can be people experimenting with different lines. But I think the wet is a bit of an equaliser in terms of racing lines. Do you think, boys? In terms of like I said, you can take multiple lines and get the same result. I think we've seen it in F1, and we particularly with drivers like Max, Lewis, Senna. People who were exquisite in the wet. Have got that ability to find grip on different lines, haven't they?
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So
we're both waiting at the same time. I was actually just going to make a comparison of to a BTCC, maybe Ash Sutton as well, because he's very strong in the wet.
Yeah.
Finding that pace.
Yeah, absolutely.
If people are, because I know I'm more clued up on touring cars, I know Ash Sutton is pretty lethal in the wet.
Just as we're watching that, Reed has got past Rich Arnold, who's had a decent roll, and Rich has just lost it through the second hairpin, but he's got himself up to 12th. He started 16th, so again, consistency, as we were speaking to him in the build-up, has led to him making up a food position so far, and points win prizes, as they say, but still pretty close between these four. Bartonks was with these guys as well, but he unfortunately has had a bit of a disaster. But he's got some pace, so no doubt he can catch back up. Still a long way to go. We're only 20 minutes in to a 120-minute race. So there's still a long way to go for these guys. And Beekhouse coming back towards Ingle now. And he's a little bit later on the brakes. You can see the squirming as he was heavy on the brakes there. Ingle taking it a little bit more easy around the hairpin on the inside line. You've got to watch how the water seems to be building up in certain parts of the track, particularly on that penultimate hairpin. There's a lot of build-up of water on the inside, so you can see how much the cars are squirming on traction now as it just continues to rain. I'm sure they're hoping the rain will stop, and that'll make things particularly sexy if we have people having to decide when to go to dry tyres and that type of thing. That'll make it nice and spicy for us, won't it, Dougie? We like a bit of jeopardy. Keep it interesting.
We're at some spice in our life.
Well, I had fajitas earlier, so I definitely like spicy.
I was just actually quickly going to say Prescott has just put a message in a YouTube live chat just saying he's not racing tonight, but he's listening while working. And Jonesy has said he'll see us in France, so we're both not racing tonight, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is a shame. We have had, probably only about 6 or 7 drivers who've been there every week. But that's sim racing for you. Unfortunately, people do have work commitments and life commitments. But cheers for tuning in, boys. We really do appreciate that. And Johnsy, we want to see my favourite Welshman back on the grid next week, please. Thank you very much. And Mr. Prescott as well in his beautiful purple livery BMW. Yes, we haven't had more than 10 drivers the same, I don't think, 2 weeks in a row, but we've always had nearly 20 drivers for every race, so it's been really difficult to keep up with who everybody is. But it's been cracking racing this season, I've got to say.
Agreed. I think in the discussion and the tense battling that we are witnessing, I think Rich Arnold might have had a little bit of an off. In fact, he will have, because it looks like Twitty's down to 13th place now. I think he might have had a little bit of an off coming into where Old Bridge used to be.
Okay. That is a shame, but so let's just pop to him, see if he's got any damage or if it was just, you know, just an off. As long as he hasn't got any damage, he looks okay. Looks okay. So he should hopefully be able to find his rhythm again and make his way back through. But Reed making really good progress in the rain, and he's made up a few positions. And yeah, it's proper battling now for 9th. So it's all settled down just a little bit at this point of the race, as we have an hour and 36 minutes to go, and not a lot of battles as these guys are settled down. But keeping an eye on Brunner as well. Brunner was second on the grid third on the grid off the start, wasn't he? Sorry, and him and Beekhouse were battling off the start. He had to pit early. We're assuming, we don't know for sure, that he was on dry tyres at the start, and pit on lap 2 or 3 for what we assume was wet. But he's on the lead lap. He's only 55 seconds down. He's got his pit stop out of the way, you know, so he could well have fuel to go a lot longer. I'm making good progress and almost now up to 13th, so we'll keep an eye on him, because I can see him within a few laps with his pace. He's about 2 seconds a lap quicker. If I just show you guys the timings, you can see on the right there, Brennan is doing 135s, which is faster than Foster is doing out in the lead, and the guys ahead of him are doing 37s generally. So we could well see Brunner on the back of that group of cars pretty quickly. And Lloyd Reed has got past Balseeley. Let's just jump onto the replay and take a look and see if we can see how that happened. So they just Balseeley runs a little wide through the penultimate hairpin, which I don't know the name of. I'm sure one of you will know the name of that hairpin.
Melbourne.
And then,
or Melbourne, I should say.
Oh, Balseeley runs super wide through the final corner. And I do apologise, folks. I do not know corner names. I'm not very good. And it's not a forte of mine. I do have odd tracks where I'm pretty good, but this unfortunately isn't one of them.
Mike probably could name all 374,967 corners of the Nordschleife.
Yeah,
if,
I can.
If we gave him the time.
Corner 1, corner 2, corner 3, corner 4.
I can name every single straight on not every single straight, one straight on every single track, and that's a start-finish straight.
Good skills, my friend. Good skills. And as we've been talking absolute nonsense, Balseeley said, "Look, Reed, I like you, mate, but you're not having that," and he's got himself back up to 10th. So yeah, it's good to see drivers willing to battle, you know, and not just going, "Oh, he's obviously quicker than me," and off he goes. And it's great to see them giving each other a hard time. Nice and fair, nice and clean, but a hard time nonetheless. And great to see Scott with a bit of fight there and getting himself back up into 10th position. And Reed will have to try again. But no, unfortunately, again, I'm not very good with corner names. So although I know the Nordschleife like the back of my hand, I couldn't name all the corners, unfortunately. I know some, but not all. Far from it. I think that officially, even though there's something like 113 turns, I think there's 73 corners officially. And I couldn't name all of them. Not in a million
Disappointed,
years.
Mike. Disappointed.
I know we got, you know, Sabine Schmitz's curve, we got the Schumacher curves, we got the Foxhole, we got YouTube corner. You know, there are many. Adno
Carousel.
Adno Bridge, Carousel, the mini Carousel. You know, there are many that I can name, but not all 73. Unfortunately, I'm not that clever. I can drive them all though, pretty much with my eyes closed at this point, because I've done around about 1,500 laps on sims around there, probably I'd say at this point. But And
We'll have to-
only
we'll have
10
to
in
stand
real
on
life,
you, Mike.
unfortunately. 10 in real life,
Sabine
1,500. You can call me Sabine Bullen if you want. I don't mind, I'll take it.
That's your weekend name, isn't it, Mike?
Unfortunately, I've got about 10% of her skill and about 4% of her looks. So either way, it's not a good thing. So these two still battling away. Let's just have a quick run through the action, see how everybody's getting on. So Foster's still out in front. He's managed to gap Ingle by 1.2 seconds, and Ingle just settled now, just in front of Wes Beerkhouse, who finds himself in third. Ingle currently with the fastest lap of the race. That's why he is showing the brightly purpled colour next to his number, because he is the fastest lap at the moment. A little bit further back then is Christian Scharf, the German, doing an extremely good job. New to the league, he had a couple of good finishes so far. He had a bit of a disaster at Spa, but so did most other drivers. But he did very well last time out, and he's doing very well again tonight, actually, and not too far, only 11 seconds off the lead, you know, after nearly half an hour of this 2-hour race. So still very much in it, and very much in with a shout if he can get his tactics right and when to stop and what tyres to be on, depending on the weather conditions. Who knows? It's all to play for. And as I say, that Scharf with a 1:34.3 with the fastest lap of the race. This guy is not out of it yet, just finding his feet, which is good to see, and good to see in an Aston Martin as well. Then we got 3 McLarens. So we've got Andrew Fairley in the 746. He is currently in 5th, and about 3 seconds back from Scharf, lapping a little bit slower than him, but not too much. Ash Humphries then is another 10 seconds back. He had caught up in a few issues at the start, so he's lost a couple of positions, but just settling down now. They're in 6th and 25 seconds off the lead for the number 44 driver. Then you've got Morris, who's having a good race. He didn't qualify particularly well, but again, he's kept his nose clean, and he's consistently in the 36s there and doing a good job. But someone who is catching him is Mefferson. Now, Mefferson had a disastrous qualifying. He's had some great battles to get his way up into 8th, but the Honda driver is currently 1.5 seconds back from Morris, but lapping about a second of a lap quicker. So we'll keep an eye on that gap as we run through this, because it looks like we might have a little battle coming up very soon. Then you've got Davis, Balseely and Reed. They're all still following each other in 9th, 10th and 11th. And somebody who was very close to those not that long ago, as Fairley's now done the fastest lap of the race. So these guys are finding time. I wonder if the rain has actually stopped and what we're seeing is just spray. No, it is still raining, sorry, you can see from that. I just wondered, because the lap time seemed to be getting a bit quicker, I wondered perhaps whether the rain has eased. It hasn't. It's not getting any heavier though, and as the cars get lighter towards the first fuel stops, obviously that will help with performance. And the wet tyres don't tend to go off. They do tend to last as well. So Bartok's battling his way back again for the 3rd time. He's had a couple of offs, and not at the best of times, but he is still in 12th and still in with a good shot of some good points if he can keep his consistency. Brunner, who had to have an early pit stop, as we discussed earlier, the Austrian, had to stop, we assume, from dry to wet tyres, as he got caught out by the inclement weather at the beginning. But he's battling his way back, and he will be attempting to overtake Mr. Thompson pretty soon by the look of things. Then you go Rich Arnold in 14th, who's had a bit of a disaster at times, but he looks like a bit more consistent now with his lap times, so hopefully still a long way to go if he can keep his head. Weavers, we haven't really covered Weavers at all in the Red Bull liveried BMW. Sort of kind of looks a bit like the DTM Ferrari from last year that Alex Albon drove, didn't it? But yeah, he's currently in 15th and still on the lead lap, and the last of the cars on the lead lap, as Humphries is not on the lead lap 16th, and is Stevens in 17th. So we're just going to go back to Brunner as he's getting super close to the back of Tonks now. So we may well see a move pretty soon. So just watching them now come down into Melbourne. I've learned a corner. I'm so proud of myself. Oh, I talked some shit. He's just at the back off a bit though. He's lost a little bit of time through there, and yeah, he was 0.1 behind when I joined, but yeah, he's looked like he's had to back off just a little bit. But Tonks is not slow. Tonks is where he is because he's been off the track a few times due to a few consistency issues, and we've seen Tonks here. He does push the track limits to the extreme. I think that's his style, isn't it, Aaron? But the problem is, with it being wet, you touch a curb, that's it, you're round.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm assuming that's what's happened to him.
Oh, he's round, Tonks is round.
Yeah, he's done it again, and that's the third time he's spun at Old Hairpin. I think he's just going too wide. He's hitting the curb, and he's losing traction. I mean, yeah, sorry, I don't know what you were going to say, Aaron, but...
I was about to say this is one place you can't exceed track limits, especially with it being wet, and he's just gone and technically exceeded track limits by going off track.
Well, Mefferson has got himself up into 7th ahead of Morris. So let's take a look at that overtaking move. So these guys are... Oh, Morris just got a little bit wide and lost traction all the way down the back straight, which has basically just cost him big time, which is a bit of a nightmare for him. But just Ingle's lost a lot of time just as we come to the end of the replay. I'm just going to rejoin Ingle. Ingle battling properly with Bakehouse, and you can see in the replay there they were neck and neck, but Bakehouse has that drop back behind. But Ingle now 6 seconds off Foster, and he's lost a load of time in the last couple of laps, so I think there's some mistakes starting to creep in, or could be that he's got his tyre pressures wrong, a bit of setup maybe. Oh, there's action here, and Balseeley has got past Davis, and he's got himself up into 9th. Great to see some fight there from Scott. Let's just pop back and see what happened. Oh, he just had better traction and got himself up into 9th. Just better traction out of the first corner basically, and all the way down the hill. Good to go. So Morris keeping with Mefferson at the moment, but unable to fight back after Mefferson has gotten past. Fairly getting pretty close to Shaft. These two pretty much the fastest guys out there at the moment. So it's far from over. Both 12 seconds only off the lead, and a lot can happen. And a long way to go yet. Whereas Beakhouse is still battling away for 3rd against Dominic Ingle. And then you've got this battle between Balseeley, Davis and Reed, which I think Dougie's been going on since about 1987.
Yeah, it's good to see good battling, because sometimes in these longer races you can see the field get very spread out, and sometimes it can lack some action, lack some battles, I suppose. So it's not a bad thing at all. I
exactly. I mean, you called it how close it was in quali. I mean, it's great to see that that's spilled over into the race, isn't it, mate?
Definitely. As I just said, it's action-packed, and as we've seen in quali, it was, what, 2nd between the top 7, top 10 or something like that. Yep. And it always makes for a great race, and especially over such a long period, it's rare to see, I suppose, translate into the race.
Yeah, definitely. I agree totally. I mean, it just makes it more interesting for us. So you can see Lloyd Reed just in the passenger seat now, watching him as they come on the hill. He's super close. You can see how much the spray impacts your vision. Not as much spray as we had at Monza, I don't think, if you boys can remember back that far. But and that was dark as well. But it will be getting dark here very soon. It is a a day to night race. I'm hoping for their sakes that the rain stops by then, and perhaps as it gets tonight we can have a bit of dry running. But I mean, you can see the impact the spray has, but not as bad as we've seen in previous races, Aaron, I don't think.
No, I agree. Obviously, the only wet race I've witnessed was Monza, but that spray looked terrible, and that was obviously just amplified by the night. So yeah, like you say, if I think by the hour mark, if it's still raining, panic mode might start creeping with some of the guys, because you'll start thinking, well, this isn't going to shift anywhere anytime soon, and is visibility going to get worse? And we were on about it earlier, how at a track like Monza, you've got the straights to reconsolidate with yourself, but at a place like this, it's maximum concentration. The mental fatigue's creeping in. We're racing for an extra prolonged period of time tonight, and all these factors just you just don't need them really as a driver, do you? Especially if there's rain.
No, I mean, I just thinking while you were speaking then, you're speaking about obviously the concentration and stuff. But these guys got to be a little bit distracted. I mean, I'd be interested to hear both of your opinions, but you'd think they've got to be a little bit distracted, because they've got to make a pit stop, because the car's tank won't go for longer than I think it's 70 or 80 minutes is the most a tank of fuel will do. It varies slightly depending on the car, but they've got to be thinking, variable weather, it could be dry. What if they put wet tyres on, if 5 laps later it's dry? Do you know what I mean? Like, that type of thing has got to be on a driver's mind in this type of race. It's going to be hard not to think about those types of things. I'd be interested to hear you guys' sort of approaches and thoughts, on that sort of stuff.
Definitely, I think it's something what was definitely hang over your head as a driver, and I suppose, as Maron was just saying, that mental stamina and that concentration. I suppose you talk about mental space, it's got to take up that space, because you go and I'm working my backside off here, get myself fouled, and if I mess up a pit stop or don't make it at the right time, get my tactics right, I've just wasted all my work, as someone just went off there.
Reed just
went off there.
Getting a little bit too excited, and he's lost a little bit of time, but he's under pressure from Brunner now, who's again making progress from the back after making a pit stop after only the first couple of laps. But I mean, do you think, Aaron, that drivers will be distracted? Will they be thinking about other things? Will they be, what if it goes dry and I've just put wet tyres on? Or do you think they're just in the moment?
No, I think they'll be thinking about it. The thing that, as you were bringing it up and Luke was speaking, my main thing was thinking of how you barely have any time at Donington to collect yourself and think about these things. There's not really a particularly long straight other than into the chicane and before Melbourne, but even those ones aren't really that long, and we're talking like 30 seconds maybe is a lap, where you've got time to really sort of think, what are the conditions like? Do I gamble with my tyres? Do I stay out? Do I let the track come to me? Do I save fuel to try and prolong the stint? All those things that you're trying to ask yourself. Martin Brundle talks about it as we see the contact there between Lloyd Reed and Brummers. Martin Brundle, as I was about to say, talks about it all the time. Having the mental capacity to take all that in while still pushing it 100%. Rewards the best drivers, and I think the drivers who were able to do that best tonight, you're going to see maybe creep up from lower behind and work their way through the top, all because of that mental capacity that they're able to take. Yeah,
absolutely agree. I just wanted to catch that on replay while you were talking there, Aaron, because I had a suspicion that something had happened, because we jumped on board with Brunner and then all of a sudden Reed wasn't there anymore. So I wanted to go back and look at the replay from the outside, and personally I would have been given that position back. I think that was a little bit over aggressive and not intentional, but he did make contact, and has caused the driver to leave the track. So my personal feeling is I probably would have backed off there and given the position back. But there we go. There we have it. He hasn't. He's carried on, and Reed has lost 6 seconds because of that. So, and he's not on the back of Davis anymore, battling for that position. So probably be reported to the stewards, that one, boys, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so. I didn't catch it too well, but I think from what I've seen, it did look slightly a bit too much, and it, as you said, did force the driver off track slightly. So
yeah, and it wasn't an intentional thing, but he has made contact with the driver and forced him to leave the track unintentionally. If you don't give the position back, in F1, for example, you're going to get a penalty. So, yeah, again, not intentional, but a shame. It is proper getting dark out there now, isn't it, boys? And the rain is not easing, so more jeopardy for these guys to deal with yet. And Brunner looks like he's getting ready to make a move now on Davis's Ferrari to get himself back up into the top 10. It's interesting though, he is, as we saw from his lap times, one of the faster guys on the circuit and was lapping quicker than Foster when in clean air, but the last time we looked he was 52 seconds behind.
I think Davis lost that there, but I think Bruno might have just tapped him in the final stages after he initially lost that.
Let us go back and have a look.
Might be best to go from Bonnet-Cam, yeah.
Ooh, yeah, sent him round.
I think he was in the process of losing it anyway there, but I probably just caught Brunner by surprise.
Yeah, it just obviously he bounced off the curb, had no traction. Obviously, couldn't move out the corner, and then Brunner was just wrong place, wrong time. Yeah,
absolutely.
Track's definitely getting faster, boys. Ingold is now into the 33s with the fastest lap of 33.992. And Schaff had done a 33.997. You couldn't get much closer, really, in terms of fastest lap. But yeah, still an hour and 15 minutes to go. It's getting darker by the moment. It's still not getting any drier. Still a long way for these guys to go. And just looking to see if there are any particular battles to look at. But I think Brunner, again, is probably going to be the next one. Having a battle.
A quick question, and hopefully I can word it so it doesn't sound as stupid as it may sound if I word it really wrongly. But obviously, you've got if you do a 2-hour dry race versus a 2-hour wet race, how much difference is there between like the mental stamina and concentration you need? Obviously, a wet race is far harder and far more concentration. But what is the difference over such a long period of time? Do you get used to it and it almost just becomes normal, or is it constantly draining yourself? I suppose is how I would word it.
I mean, for me, it depends. Like, I'm not the best with the setups of cars, and if you can set the car up well for the wet, it'll perform well in the wet. Then, in theory, it shouldn't really be any different. It'll be slower, obviously, because of the conditions. But it doesn't really make a huge difference. It does for someone like me who isn't very good at setups and can't really set the car up that well, often relying on other people's help, if you sort of see what I mean. So for someone like me in that situation, I find it quite stressful, and having to concentrate. I find it really difficult to settle into a rhythm in these kinds of conditions. But yeah, I mean, that's me. But like I say, some of these guys, will be more experienced and better at setting up cars for wet weather, and those that are will find it probably, I would imagine, quite normal. I don't know your thoughts on that, Aaron.
Yeah, I agree. The difficult thing for me is that I've not really driven wet races on a wheel. I've only done it on the pad. But most of the time, my setup is to run the dry setup and just lower the tyre pressures down for the traction zones. That's my wet setup. But I tend to just pick it up and drive and just fling it around in the wet, and I effectively grab it by the neck and just wring it. I'll just wring as much pace as I can out of it. Touch wood, I've always been semi-decent in the wet, but I think it's totally different for these guys. Setup is vastly key in these cars. It's not, there's only so much the driver can do, and with these cars being so mechanically orientated with, with suspension and tyres, there's not much aero to play with. Setup is so important, and I said it that many times because I just can't stress it if you do not get the right setup, you are going to suffer in this race for 2 hours at a track where there's no respite. It's painful, as I apologise to any viewers who heard the motorbike that just went past my road.
Yeah, I mean, and it all, wet running, it just all depends on what category is. Reed is making his first pit stop. So he is one of the first of the top 10 to make a stop, so he drops down.
Has it stopped raining, or is that just a viewer in?
Well, I've thought it stopped raining a few times, and looking there I can't see it, but it is getting a lot darker now. But I think it might well have stopped raining, and it's just spray now and existing water, so it might well get dry. So this is a key time for if it has stopped raining, which I think it has. No, you can see on that wide shot there, it's still raining. Yeah, you can see it on the wide shot. It's still raining.
Oh yeah.
I was going to get all excited then and talk about tactics, but it's been taken away from me by the bloody rain. But yes, there we go. I digress. In terms, back to the wet run. Of course, the way you prepare for a wet race varies massively depending on what category you're in. In an open wheel sort of thing, I mean, you raise the ride height as much as you can, which isn't much really with carbon strut suspension. You add a bit of downforce, you chuck wet tyres on it. I mean, that's pretty much it. Most of it is due to engine mapping, isn't it? They map it to have less torque in the wet, I think, don't they, to stop wheel spinning and such like that. Which again, these cars have got those types of options as well. But in these, you've got a little bit of downforce to play with, as Aaron was saying, but not much. So it's all really down to suspension and tyres. And then in something like touring cars, you just strap some wet tyres on it and go for it. So it varies, doesn't it? Depending on what you're driving. Oh, somebody went way off there.
Straight on. Yeah.
Way. Yeah, that was the Ferrari of someone. I think he was getting out of the way for the front runners, actually. I think that's what he was doing. Not to hinder them as he was being lapped. Yes, it would have been Rich Arnold getting out of the way as he was being lapped. So he did the right thing. So ignore me. So what are we now? Hour and 10 minutes to go. And still a long old way. 7:55 p.m. In the game, in race time. So getting darker, as we said, by the second. Isn't getting drier though. We just want it to stop raining and just add that little bit of excitement now. Who's going to stop at the right time? Are people going to have to stop twice for dry tyres as well? That's what we want to see now. And some angles it looks like it's not raining at all, and some angles it looks. Oh, where's
good save?
I wonder if he knows how they drift in Tokyo. What a save from Mr. Beerhouse there. Absolutely fantastic. He's lost a bit of impetus to the back of Dominic, but it was entertaining to watch, so we don't care.
You gained extra style points.
He did, yes. If he was playing Need for Speed 4 or whatever it was, where you used to have that drift competition in the middle of it, yeah, he'd be laughing. Brunner has now set the fastest lap of the race. He got himself into a bit of clear air after fighting his way past a lot of cars, and he's now got the fastest lap of the 33.2, way faster than most other cars. Well, actually, Fairley is around about that pace, and Ingle as well. Foster a little bit off the pace at the moment, and the cars behind him are starting to catch back up. But he could be fuel saving or tyre saving, we just don't know. But Brunner right up onto the back of Morris now. So is he going to make it work? Where he started on the dry tyre and then had to pit very early. I mean, has he managed to adjust his strategy enough to make it work? We just don't know at this point. There's still such a long way to go. But he's a minute off the lead. Don't really save. I mean, it's a prescribed pit stop time, pretty much, of being stopped for 30 seconds, regardless of whether you have fuel or not. So you don't really save anything by doing a splash and dash sort of situation later on, as we see Brunner make his way past Morris. But I think Morris has pretty much yielded that position there, knowing that he's not really going to be battling Brunner for much longer in this race, and he's kind of just let him have it. Fairley has got past Scharf. That's an interesting one. So let's just take a little look back and see what happened. So we're fairly in the McLaren. Sorry, it's dark and it kind of just looks like it's got a Christmas tree on it, but it could be something else. Oh, Shaft just made a mistake. Yeah, just lost traction out the corner. Made a mistake. Easiest overtake failure he'll do this year. Yeah, shame, because Shaft had really good pace, but Fairley's done a 32.7, so he's really on it actually, and he's managed to look after his tyres for a good while. I mean, they've been running for nearly an hour now. I mean, the tyres will go for an hour, but to be pumping in those types of fast slaps, I mean, that is 7/10 faster than most of the drivers out there, you know, of that ilk, you know, on that pace. So that is a particularly quick lap, I must say. And yeah, he's up to 4th now. And again, he's still only 11 seconds off the lead, and a lot can happen. But the pit stop's starting to come now, so it'll be interesting to see how tactics play out. But we need a good angle now to see if it's raining. I think it's stopped raining, boys.
Can we go into passenger view so we can see your windscreen, see if there's any splashes?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
drop.
good idea. There isn't.
There isn't.
And you can
But
see
stop.
the darker grey clouds. I can't talk. Grey clouds. The darker grey clouds in the sky have gone, so it has gone dry. So anybody who's already stopped and has gone on to wets might be kicking themselves for not hanging on a bit longer. So I think that'll play a part now. Is they've basically just got to go until they haven't got any fuel left, then pit for dry tyres, assuming they do get a forecast for the weather, which unfortunately we can't see, but they do get a forecast which tells them.
Almost pitted in the background.
Yeah,
Shaft.
yeah, he's lost loads there at the time there, isn't he? Oh, sorry, he's gone in the pit. Sorry, I thought I heard you say he ran wide. Yeah, so he's gone in for it. So it'll be interesting to see. It's a shame we can't see, you know, close enough to see what tyres he puts on. But there you go. He is in the pits and fairly pretty much the fastest man on track at the moment.
Quick question.
Oh,
So say,
was he not even in his pit box? What's he doing? He's still moving. Oh, he stopped before his pit box, and they obviously wouldn't work on the car. So he went forward, then back again to get into his pit box, and basically cost. Well, he was sat still for about 15 seconds before he did that. So he's lost loads of time. Brunner into the pits again. So long story short, that early pit stop solved absolutely nothing for him. It hasn't gained him anything really. So whatever the issue was, assuming it was dry to wet tyres, he's now had to pit again and start again. So yeah, there we go.
quick question: how long does slick tyres last? So in essence, say if it was to dry out now, would they last till the end of the race or not?
They should do on a normal. Oh God, what's the word he uses? Optimum. Track. Optimum's the word. On a normal optimum track, you'd get an hour out of the tyres, no problem at all. Maybe longer if you're particularly light on your tyres. But the problem is the track isn't optimum. It's going to be slippery in places. It's going to be very little rubber down now after all that rain. And yeah, so.
What would you do now? What would you be thinking of driving?
If I was going now, I'd be staying out there as long as I had fuel and pitting at the last possible minute for dries. Assuming the forecast doesn't say it's going to rain again, that is, because the drivers can't see a forecast, which we can't.
Ah, right. What about you, Aaron? What would you do?
I'd hang it on as long as I can for the wets, just so I give myself maximum opportunity on the dries. I'd only want to stop once, so I'd just prolong the stint as much as I dare until I'm losing like hand over fist in time, and then I'd go on to the dries.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say. I mean, these guys are doing mid-32s now, the top runners. And I mean, a dry time on an optimum track, you know, quality fuel was what, low 27, so race fuel, you're looking at 28, probably on average, 28 and a half. So, you know, they're still 4 seconds off that. So, where's the crossover? So, Humphries is pitted. He's just coming out now. He'll come out in 10th position. And
Ingles just took a fastest lap as well.
yeah, so they're still doing rapid times out in front on the wet. So yeah, I mean, I suppose it'd be interesting to know. This will be Brunner's first full lap now after his pit stop. So it'd be interesting to see if what kind of lap time he does, and if it's starkly different, then we might know whether he's on wets or dries. But he's particularly close to Weavers at the moment. Weavers in that Red Bull BMW. So that's what his rear view mirror looks like. And Bruno with loads more traction, as you can see there, and makes his way easily past him up the hill. And back up into 12th. So it's a bit all over the place at the moment, because some have been lapped because they've pitted, and some have been lapped because they've made mistakes, and some have been lapped because they're slow, and some haven't been lapped, and some haven't pitted yet, and all sorts of ways. The order is a bit bonkers until everybody completes their pit stops, and we can see where everybody settles in. But just sticking with Brunner a moment, I'm interested to see if Mepperson is also in the pits for his, what he'll hope will be his only pit stop. Foster in the pits as well, so he's been the first of those front runners to pull the trigger. Beerhouse has followed him in as well, so Fairley and Ingle are 2 and 1 at the moment. So let's see what kind of lap time Brunner has done here. It looks like, based on his running delta, that it's going to be slower than what he was doing. Yeah, 33.5, so I mean it's no faster than wet tyres if he has got dry tyres on, which I'm assuming he must have. But you know, we heard Rich Arnold say, you know, when the track is even just slippery and icy, even if it's not wet, the dry tyres do seem to work around here. So the wet tyres, sorry, do seem to work. So you never know. Somebody might have been brave and gone dry, wet, and tried to see it out on wet tyres. But some might go dry. We just don't know, boys, do we? As simple as. And without tyre graphics to tell us who's on what, we're at a loss.
Well, yeah, I think it would be good if we did have tyre graphics, because we'd be able to actually see who's playing a gamble and who's not. But it's what it is, I suppose.
Yeah, that's one of the few things that this software doesn't have, is what tyres they are on.
It'll just be one for the driver interviews anyway, won't it?
Yeah, oh yeah, God, yeah, plenty of questions. I can see how many times people have stopped, so...
Oh, Schaff with the fastest lap, and he's definitely on dries.
Yeah, 32.2, so the dries are coming into play now.
Might just take a couple of laps to get up to heat.
Yeah, very good point. I mean, the track is definitely dry now. We can see that in front of our very eyes.
There's no spray now either.
No, and despite it being pretty late in the evening, there's enough warmth in that track to have dried it out a fair bit. So let's keep an eye on this. So Balsillie into the pits now, so he'll go down the order a little bit as he makes his pit stop. Rich Arnold, Weavers in the pits as well.
What would you guys do in this scenario? Would you want to go for an undercut or for an overcut?
As I said, I mean, in these conditions, I probably just would have gone until I physically had to stop for fuel. So I would have gone overcut myself. I mean, you need to be well under the crossover time really to make an undercut work, don't you? To go to dries early. And of course, the dries are going to wear quicker than the wets as well, so you'll be out the tyres towards the end of the race. So I probably would have gone overcut myself.
I would agree with Mac, to be fair. I'm not very clued up on strategies and stuff like that, but I assume Mac knows what he's doing, so I'll follow what Mac says.
We're all on the overcut strategy then.
I don't know about that. I mean, I've done a few endurance races in my time, but something I want to get back into, to be fair. Only endurance, though. Not sprint, but if I can find the time, I'll do some endurance races on PC on a day when I'm not doing this or touring car sim racing league. But there we are. I digress again. But let's see. So I'm trying to keep an eye on lap times. Brunner was much quicker that time, not far off. Shaft's fastest lap actually. That was pretty quick. So yeah, the dry tyres do appear to be coming into play. Foster was in the Leighton 32.9s. He's just about to come across the lap now. 32.5 that time around. Mefson in the mid 32s. So yeah, the track is coming to these guys now. But let us see how they get on. So Morris and Balsini, they're close together, but according to the track they're not. That's not Balsini in front of him, that's Mefson. Yeah, I think it's all gone a bit wrong. The timing screws have gone wrong. It's telling me that Morris is up Balsini's butt, but he's not, he's up Mefson's butt, so God knows what's happening. So it's all settled down a bit now. Everybody's done their pit stop, I think. Let me just check the pit counts and make sure everyone has stopped. Yeah, they have. Some have stopped twice due to damage, etc. But yeah, everybody has stopped, and away we go.
What time has Shaft actually set? Because as the fastest lap on Good Rise.
The fastest lap is 32, 32.200. But that's just been beaten by Bruno, who's done a 31.707. So he's finding some really good pace. Sorry?
Drive-through for Shaft.
Oh, he's got a drive-through. Oh no, bad news for Shaft. He was having such a good race as well. And he's got himself a drive-through. That will, ladies and gentlemen, in case you're not aware, will be for track limit abuse. That's why you get a drive-through like that. And he's...
Stevens now too.
Yeah, Stevens also with a drive-through. So this will be, if you've left the track and gained any time in doing so, you get a drive-through penalty. So two drivers there within a few seconds of each other getting a drive-through, and that will ruin your race. I mean, not so much in an endurance race, as you do still have time to fight back, but still you're going to lose at least sort of 25 seconds in this pit lane, I would imagine, doing a drive-through. So not ideal, is it, gentlemen?
No, not at all.
I mean, not that Stevens has got much to play for, as he's 8 laps down at the back, but still, I'm sure you'll be frustrated with that. But for Shaft, who was running in 5th and challenging for 4th and in a pretty good position, has now lost out to Ash Humphries. Ash Humphries goes up into 5th and continues his consistent performances this season, but he is a good 30 seconds behind Fairley now, and it's going to take a mighty effort to get himself back up into 4th. That doesn't look likely. I'm just trying to do some maths in my head, see how much faster he would have to be per lap. So it's a 90-second lap, which means there's 10 laps every 15 minutes, which means there is 40 laps in an hour, which means...
Oh, big spikes.
We've had 3 of those already, so if there's 37 laps left and he's 30 seconds behind, he needs to be, yeah, a second a lap quicker, basically. And he's not going to be, well, 0.8 of a second. Quicker per lap to catch up with Fairley, so not impossible, but at the moment he's actually on par with Fairley in terms of lap time, so it does not look like it. Bierkhaus has now set the fastest lap, and he's at a 31.2, and he's got the car performing well, quicker than Foster, and he's closed the gap. Foster had gained a bit of time doing in the pit stops, but Bierkhaus now fighting back, and Ingle then another 2.5 seconds back. So still a lot to play for, and still a long time to go. As I said, that 53 minutes equates to probably 36 or 37 laps, depending on when they cross the line. That was some good in-head maths, that was, boys. I won't lie to you, I was proud of that.
So I know we're just over halfway through, and it's slightly early. But who are your contenders for the race of Race of a good day, driver of a good race.
Race of the day is Donington.
Driver of a good day.
Driver of the
driver
day.
of a race. Here, go on.
Driver of the race for me so far. Just a little bit.
Ting tang, guagua, bing bang.
At the moment, I'm going for Beekhouse, but that is a provisional decision. You know, a lot can change, but Beekhouse much more on it, much more consistent, and at the moment, fastest man on track.
Fair enough, Aaron.
I'd probably go for Brunner. I know he had his little incident with Lloyd earlier, but he's shown some pretty good pace, hasn't he? And he's managed to get himself back up into 7th place, which isn't too bad.
No, I agree with that. And I was going to say Foster, just because, just keep out in front and consistency-wise, he's just kept his head down. He's made his pit stop and made it back to the front again.
Yeah. I mean, all worthy contenders. Yeah, I was just looking at it, and you know, just trying to think of previous performance and stuff like that. But yeah, you know, there's a lot of very talented drivers out there, isn't there? Simple as. So it's really hard. You know, we got given the task as a comms team of picking the driver of the race for both the sprint races and the endurance, and those drivers get a point for us saying it, so we don't take these decisions lightly. But that's the provisional decisions, is we're completely split, and still 51 minutes to go, thankfully, so hopefully somebody can stand out in the next 50 minutes and give us an unconditional winner. But Beekhouse again with another fastest lap, 2 in a row now. He's definitely got pace, and he is closing that gap to Foster. And Engel just trying to stick with him, but he is losing time. He lost 3/10 on that last lap. Keeping an eye, yeah, Fairley and Humphreys are doing exactly the same lap times in the dry conditions as each other, so they're not making any progress one way or the other. So we are 50 minutes to go, as we said, and we have still got a good 35 laps left of this race. So, alright, let's take it the other way then, boys. Who's your surprise for the wrong reasons of the race? Like, who's not where you thought they would be at this point?
I'll go with Bart Tonks, because as we were saying before, we know what he's got in the locker, and I don't think 15th is representative of his skill, I would say.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Lloyd Reed, someone who showed fantastic pace at the last couple of times we've watched him. So I think he'd be disappointed with 12th equally, like Bart Tonks is with 15th.
Yeah, I was probably going to say Tonks actually, but in fairness, I mean, Bart's a great driver and he had a great first season, but he's really struggled for consistency this year, and I hope he won't mind me saying that. I mean, no offence by it, but he's not been consistent this season. We've seen it time and time again where he's one of the top 4 or 5 in terms of speed, but he makes 2 or 3 mistakes every race, doesn't he? So it's not really a surprise for that reason. It is in terms of his pace, but it's not in terms of his consistency. What was that ooh for?
Magnificent drive-through.
Oh, I saw him go wide, but I didn't pick up the drive-through. Oh, my sole Honda man, the only Honda guy out there, and he's got himself a drive-through. So that's going to add around about 25-30 seconds. So he's probably only going to lose 1 position to that, actually, due to the gaps back to... no, sorry, I'm reading the wrong graphic. I'm reading the wrong graphic. Sorry, he's going to lose 3 positions and probably come out in 12th, actually, based on that. Which is a shame, but there we go. So Shah for the fastest lap of the race. Now he's the first one to dip below the 30s, and he's done a 29.8. So Shaft definitely trying to come back, and Brunner's also now into the 29s. So these guys quick, these are the two quickest on the track at the moment. Wes Beaco's a little bit slower, but still faster than Foster. And he has eaten that gap down from 12 seconds after the pit stops down to 8. So he's still got plenty left in the tank, Wes, to try and challenge for the lead. But Foster, as we've seen many times, a pretty formidable foe when he's out in front. He tends to just keep his cool and get it done, doesn't he, Aaron?
Yeah, he's we've seen it so much last season. When he's out there and when he's got a clear gap and he knows exactly what's going on around him, he just disappears. He's a bit like a prime Sebastian Vettel. You know, he's almost impossible to catch.
Yeah, and you know, I think that's why it was such a surprise, wasn't it, when he made that mistake in Spa in the second race, wasn't it? He was leading Dougie, and then he just sort of out of nowhere just sort of disappeared, didn't he? I think he finished 3rd or 4th in the end, but it's a surprise when someone like that makes a big mistake, isn't it?
Yeah, well, especially when you're so used to good performances, it's always a surprise when, as you just said, when someone makes a mistake when you're used to him performing week in, week out.
But, you know, it shows he's human, and it's obviously good for the championship as well, because we want it to be close, and he is leading that at the moment, and he is well up in front. I say most of that is not due to his race finishing positions, it's due to, you know, unfortunately, people with life commitments haven't been able to turn up every week and properly give him a challenge, but that's what we want to see. But he's settled in that Porsche, and he's turned up every week, and he's got the points, so good for him. So Mefferson just coming through the pit lane now to serve that drive-through penalty. That is now cleared, and he has come out in 12th, as I thought. And will be about 3.5 seconds behind Reed and Davis, and have a bit of fighting to do. So Reed proper close now to Davis, and these guys have had a couple of battles throughout this. We've seen Davis, Arnold, Reed, Balsili, Morris, Mefferson. They've all sort of been battling each other throughout this race, and once again Reed and Davis are close together. And, as I said, Reed are probably a little bit further down the order than we would have expected normally.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't realise you were.
No. I was stating what you did say earlier. I wasn't.
Oh, apologies.
That's right.
I asked you to beat there.
You are allowed to.
Thinking, no.
You are allowed to speak without being spoken to. It's fine. This isn't grammar school. But
I was.
Yeah, no.
I
Go
was
for
going to
it.
say, Mike. How's the gap looking out front with Beakhouse and Foster?
Yeah, so I'll just pull the timings up for the guys at home. So the gap is down to 6 seconds now, and on the last lap, for example, Beakhouse did the fastest lap of the race at 29.5, and Foster with a 1:30.8. So a couple of mistakes starting to creep in for Foster as well, which are obviously having an impact. So yeah, it's definitely not over, and with 45 minutes to go, there's nothing to say that Beakhouse can't fight this back. But we are currently watching Reed versus Davis. It's still about a half a second gap between these two, and that is pretty much the status quo. And Davis having a decent debut season in that Ferrari. It's quite weird seeing a Ferrari getting chased by a McLaren with a Ferrari livery. It's frying my noodle a little bit. And the curse of the commentator strikes again. Absolutely fantastic. I just said what a wonderful debut season he was having, and he spins. Well, I mean, let's take a look at the replay, see what happened, because we didn't quite get to see exactly where he got it wrong.
It looked like he just clouted the curb.
Let me just jump on the passenger side, just have a quick look. Just going inside. Oh yeah, if you dip just onto the grass, the outside of the curb is like it's really deep between like the curb and the grass, and it throws you right off. So yeah, that's exactly what's happened. And Mefferson is now pressuring him and looking to get up to 11th.
That does just show how precise these guys have to be for a full 2 hours. That little mistake has cost. It shows how precise you have to be with good driving each lap, every corner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know exactly how bad that curb is. because when I was doing my track guide earlier, the first 3 laps I did that. and they threw my car across the road, and that was it. So I had to press reset a few times. So yeah, I'm very much aware of just how vicious that thing is. But Beercouse with another fastest lap, and the gap is down to 4.8 seconds now. Foster's still in the 130s, and Beercouse is in the low 29s. He's nearly a second a lap quicker at the moment, and he's absolutely flying up to the back of Foster, and has dropped Dominic Ingle by 7 seconds. So it looks like Beercouse is the one to watch at the moment, and he is absolutely making moves in that Audi up towards your race leader. And there is your race leader, Foster, just coming across the start-finish line now. And yeah, Beercouse is a man on a mission. So Foster then with a 130.1. Let's see what Beercouse does. He does a 129.2, so again another second of a lap quicker. He is absolutely flying. Efferson properly close now to the back of Davis as they come into Melbourne. Ooh. And down to the last corner, and Mefferson is just looking for the switchback. I think he's taking a very different line, a less tight line, and hoping to get better traction down the start finish straight to attack Davis into the first corner. He might well be able to get it done. We'll just jump on them. Is he going to be later on the brakes? You can see him, he came off the brakes trying, and then back on them trying to just get that bit of space and the inside for that corner, but very well driven by Davis and well defended. He didn't panic, he didn't lose his cool there, did he, Doug? He just gave him the space he deserved and carried on his normal line.
That's what you've got to do, is just make sure you provide that space and just make sure you battle fairly and there's not too much contact or too much aggression in it.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's very easy to be over aggressive, but that's the mark of a truly good sim racer, I think, Aaron, isn't it? When you can battle closely without making contact.
Yeah, you can always judge if someone. I think one of our commentators last night said it perfectly in the interviews. You just get so used to driving along next to people, and ultimately your racecraft just becomes so much better because you can trust the guy you're racing with. You trust everyone who's in your lobbies because you get used to the things they do, and ultimately you end up having a lot of faith in the people you're alongside.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with the sentiment totally, because I raced Simon Ashbourne up the hill at the Bathurst last night. I mean, normally you just have to file in and one by one and wait till the straight, but we managed to race each other all the way up the hill side by side. How one of us didn't die, I don't quite know, but it goes to show when you know you can trust each other and it's good, clean, fair racing, you can do it. Morris has lost position. I think he's had a bit of an off. Let's just take a quick look at the replay and see what has happened to Morris. We'll just jump onto the helicam so we can have a good view of this. It's just coming down the S's, I think, isn't he? Oh, and another one. He just got a bit too greedy on the curb, and it punished him. Simple as. But while we've been watching that, it is still proper close between Mefferson and Davis, and they are still so aside. And Morris is unfortunately, due to that, is only just in front of these guys now, so that'll give Davis a bit of impetus to protect the position, so we can try and get another position with Morris in front of him. But if Morris gets back on pace, he should be okay. Mefferson trying to go up the inside. Oh, he does get the inside line this time, doesn't he? But Davis, no. Great traction despite taking a wider line. And Mefferson trying to go around the outside now. Again, you can see Davis with a tight line, Mefferson with a wide line. Different approaches, but they're both pretty much carrying the same speed out of that last corner. And once again, great racing, but no move to be had.
No, 100%. It's almost as if Mefferson's flirted with the idea of sticking up the inside at Melbourne, but for whatever reason, the Ferrari of Davis is just able to get so much better drive, and then he's got the inside line for the final corner, so it's almost like the perfect defence, just letting Mefferson try and get it up the inside in the first place.
Yeah, you know, he just seems to have an knack of keeping his calm, I think, doesn't he, Dougie, more than anything? And as Aaron says, you know, he's just, right, you do whatever you want, mate, I'm going to do my thing, and you're going to have to make something pretty special happen to get past me.
Definitely. I think sometimes you can concentrate too much on your mirrors, and actually if you just, as you just said, if you just crack on and kind of not necessarily ignore, but just crack on and go, well, you could do your thing and I'll crack on, because I think I've been caught victim to concentrating on my mirrors more than what's ahead of me, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've all been there. It's too hard not to sometimes, but just keep an eye on the gap out front, and the gap is staying at around about 4 seconds now, so there's a combination of Bakehouse losing some speed and Foster finding some speed, so they seem to have basically levelled out a little bit, those front two now, so the gap is still maintained at just over 4 seconds. Be interesting. I don't know whether Bakehouse has cooked his tyres a little bit early. Maybe they'll come back once he gets through the graining period. Time will tell, but we will see. So just keep an eye. Yeah, these guys still close. Davis has managed to keep pace with Morris. I mean, Morris was a bit further up the field, but Davis and Mefferson keeping pace with Morris now. And if anything, I think having Morris in front of him now will do Davis a favour. One, it gives him something else to concentrate on in a positive frame rather than a defensive frame, and a bit of a slipstream as well, which doesn't hurt, does it, guys?
No, absolutely not. I'm just going to excuse myself for a couple of minutes. I'm just going to go make myself a drink because I have not touched one since I got in the house. So I will join you guys in a couple of minutes.
You do that, my friend, not a problem at all. And make me one while you're there. Even though I'm about 320 miles away. So yeah, we are still watching the battle between Morris, Davis and Mefferson. Morris pretty comfortable just in front of these two, but Davis just using the back of that McLaren to keep his Ferrari moving forward. But Mefferson once again super close coming out of Melbourne and just trying to take different lines. He's unable really do anything. He just hasn't got enough of a pace advantage to really make a move stick, as he Doug is just same thing.
No,
lap
not
after
really.
lap. He seems to sort of be out of ideas almost.
Yeah, I think he's just thinking, I'll just keep trying, hopefully he'll make a mistake and I can capitalise on it. I think you're right, I think he has got to the point where I don't know where I can make a move, so I'll keep trying the same move and hopefully it comes off at some point.
Yeah.
I was just going to comment before, actually, you were saying about when you've got someone in front of you, positive. I always find how I'm far faster when I'm chasing someone. I feel like I've got a bit more of a visual target rather than just trying to prod along and try and set a fast lap.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly am at my quickest when I'm chasing, but usually when I'm about, if I'm about 5 seconds behind someone and I know I'm quicker than them, that's when I'm at my quickest, particularly in touring cars. If I'm right up the back of someone, obviously I brake a little bit earlier because it's so easy to lock up in touring cars. You've got no drive range at all in terms of ABS and stuff. It's a bit different in these because you've got the ABS to help you and save you if you need it. But in touring cars, I mean, as you know, it's just so easy to lock up. So if I'm in close combat, I brake a little bit earlier, lift off. And, just to be safe. So of course you lose a lot of lap time. But if I've got a car, 5-6 seconds in front of me, and I know I'm quicker than them, that's when I'm at my fastest because I know I've got the space to really push the car to its limits, and that's when I enjoy it the most, really. So
yeah, I'd agree with that, to be fair, because as you said, sometimes you've got to adjust your driving style for the person in front. So I think having that nice gap really does give you that visual target, but not where to the point it impacts your own lap time.
Yeah, it certainly does. What do you think on preserving your tyres when you've got to drive for that kind of length of time? Is it good to push and try and go for these lap times, or should you be preserving your tyres?
I think at this point I would personally just be saving my tyres and just, I suppose, settling down a little bit and just waiting for this final bit of the race, I think, and just again push towards the end and see if you can capture any final positions.
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, I never know what to do, whether it's to, like, you know, proper push it, do you know what I mean, like, and like just think, like, if the tyres go off, they go off, and let's just try and, you know, get it done, or whether to drive more within myself and try and protect it. But Mefferson, he was right alongside him there, but he's had a back out of it for the chicane.
Do you reckon he'll go for the inside line again?
Yeah, he probably will. But I think he's a little bit further back this time. Yeah, he is, yeah. Because he had to back out going through the chicane. So he lost a little bit, but again, proper close between these two guys. But no moves to be had, I'm afraid. And Beekhouse has started, a couple of mistakes have started to kick in now, just keeping an eye on that battle for the lead. And Beekhouse is now over 5 seconds behind Foster. So it's not gone his way, unfortunately for him. And he's had to... he's got to try and reset, really, hasn't he, and just try and find that bit of pace again, because he was way quicker than Foster in the first phase after the pit stops, but it just seems to have lost that bit of an edge at the moment.
Definitely, I think that could be due to a bit of tiredness, a bit of lack of concentration. Just, I think maybe just becoming comfortable, I suppose, with that sort of second, and maybe it's not worth pushing that bit more.
Yeah, we could see some dust getting kicked up then, and that was Morris who ran wide out of Old Hairpin, kicked up a bit of dust, and you could see Davis was right up alongside him. Oh, and Morris has made another mistake and gone wide again, and he's lost 2 positions. And we saw that they just ran wide, lost that bit of momentum, and it's a long old straight. You cannot afford to lose that much momentum down this straight, because you're just going to be a mile behind by the time we get to the end of it. Oh, Mefferson very aggressive over the curbs there, and he's lost out a little bit to the back of Davis, but Davis now up into the top 10. A couple of mistakes from Morris in his second half of this race has led to him going from 8th position down to 12th, so I'm sure he will be disappointed with that, for sure. But yeah, these 2 guys are still the closest battle we've got on track at the moment. But let's just have a quick run through and take a look at all the drivers and see how they're doing, with 30 minutes to go in this 2-hour endurance race at Donington Park. So your season 1 and defending champion, Adam Foster, is still out in first place. He's got a 4-second gap to Wes, because that was 4 seconds then, or just over 5, and it's now just low 4s again. So he is trying to catch and making good moves. So Beekhouse, you can see there, just half a straight back, and he is trying to make a move. We're hoping the back marker is very kind to him. That might be actually why Foster lost that second. And then in third place at the moment, you've got Dominic Ingle. Sorry about that, folks. And then you've got, as I said, Dominic Ingle in third. Oh, and Philly's off, and just as we come to him, he's had an off, and let's just take a look at the replay and see what's happened to him. And,
Could we class that one as commentator's curse?
Probably. I mean, I only flicked the camera to him. I hadn't even said his name yet. But we can probably class it as commentator's curse. But again, coming down.
I wonder if we're going to see a similar one to before with the curb.
Coming down the
Not yet.
I think he's guessed. Oh no, that's a weird one. I think he's probably pulled one too many cogs, and the diff has probably locked up the rear wheels and spun him, or he just ran out of talent. Could be either or, really. But yeah, luckily he was kind of just on his own in fourth anyway, so he hasn't really lost anything from doing that. I mean, he's definitely not going to be challenging for third, but yeah, he is pretty safe in that position. Has still got a fair gap to Ash Humphreys, who's now 18 seconds further back and currently in 5th position. Then you've got Schaaf, who would probably be 4th if it hadn't been for his drive-through penalty, but he did have a drive-through penalty, but he's still 6th, so still a pretty stellar drive from Schaaf. Brunner, who's recovering from an extra pit stop due to having the wrong tyres on at the start. He's back up into 7th, and currently 3 seconds behind the other, excuse me, the other Aston of Schaaf, so it won't be too long before he's at the back of Schaaf and challenging for that position. Scott Balseeley is in 8th in the BMW, having a better showing than he's had in previous weeks, and it's good to see him back on form today. Lloyd Reid not had the best, but it is an immensely competitive field up there today, actually. So, in fact, I mean, Reid's not as high up as we have seen him, but that's not to say he's not doing a good job, because and I just noticed Davis has gone off. I think he's had a bit of an adventure.
Oh, bad Tonks for the drive-through.
He's lost out, and Tonks has got the drive-through. Just finished going through everyone. Mefferson in 10th, and he has had a couple of offs, so probably could be a bit further up. Morris in 11th. We know he's had a few offs. Davis has just had an off, so he's gone from 10th down to 12th. Weavers in 13th in the Red Bull BMW. Arnold in 14th in the Ferrari. And then Bartonks, who's got another drive-through penalty. I think that is pretty much won every race this season. The poor bugger doesn't have much luck. And then you've got Damien Humphries, who is 3 laps down, unfortunately. But he's still ploughing on, and that deserves a lot of credit, because it's not easy to do that when you're 3 laps down on your own. And the same goes for Dan Stevens in the second of the Porsches, as he is also still getting at it, despite the fact he is 8 laps down off the lead. So credit to those drivers for keeping it going and seeing it through. So how long we got to go? We've got 25 minutes to go. Oh, Big House, sorry, while I've been going through that, he's got the gap down to 2.8 seconds now. So it was down to 4, then up to 5, now down to just under 3 seconds. So it could still be on. There are still mistakes in both of these drivers. We've seen that, but it's who can keep their cool, who can keep the pace. And if we have a look on the rear wing, you can just see the lights in the background. That is Beerhouse, and he is coming. So let us keep an eye on that gap, and hopefully it'll come down as we stick with them. So this is Beerhouse now going around Donington Park for this 2-hour endurance race. So we are over 75% of the way through the race now. 25 minutes to go. Tiredness will be kicking in. Frustration for those that aren't quite where they wanted to be. You just got to keep your head really, haven't you, for the last 25 minutes, boys?
Yeah, at this point in time now, it's just let's get home. Let's not make any more mistakes, and just capitalise. You know, everyone individually will be thinking this, but just capitalise on anyone else making errors in front of you. Just keep it on the black stuff. 25 minutes left now. Head down, get it across the line.
I would agree with that, to be fair, because you've got, in essence, the last hour and 35 minutes of work to waste if you make a mistake now, and I think it's just key just to settle, I suppose. And I think at this point, unless you're really, really fighting for a position, I think just settle down and just, as Aaron said, take it home.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to just keep pushing in it, and we all have that red mist in it, you know, where you just can't help yourself, and you keep pushing and pushing and pushing. But I mean, no doubt, Beerhouse is pushing because you can see a victory in front of him, and you know there are a couple of guys that are pretty close out there. Brunner's pretty close to Schaaf as well. So you know, these guys, unfortunately, they're racing drivers, and common sense doesn't always kick in, does it? Not everybody's Alan Prost, and
To be fair, I think to be a racing driver, you can't have much common sense.
But I mean, you know, you do have your Prosts of the world, you know, where they just calculate where they need to finish for the best outcome of that race. but you know you do have your Max Verstappens who will absolutely battle until the last second of the race if there's an absolute sniff of an extra point. So, but that's what makes it so interesting, isn't it? Different approaches and different ethoses to racing. So yes, we are. That's a bit of a lull. So there's not a lot happening at the moment in terms of wheel-to-wheel action, but that. Such is the way. We've, to be fair, been spoiled with plenty of action and close racing and overtakes for an endurance race. It's been one of the better ones in terms of the action that you see. But that gap for Wes Beerhouse is now 1.7 seconds, and he was 0.5 of a second quicker than Foster on that last lap. Foster, is he fuel saving? Is he tyre saving? We don't know. They are. What, 12, 13 laps to go, maybe another one. So still a long old way in terms of laps. 22 minutes left on the clock. But
if you were Foster, would you be feeling the pressure right now?
I got no doubt he's feeling the pressure. He knows how quick Wes is in that Audi, and he's seen that gap come down. I mean, Wes was close at the start of the race, and I think Wes made a mistake, didn't he, at one point, which cost him a bit of time, and then Foster seemed to gain a bit more time in the pit stops as well. But I mean, it's not exactly flown down, you know, when you consider after the pit stops were, you know, 40 odd minutes ago, and it was 8 seconds, and it's now, you know, just under 2 seconds. So it's not, you know, he's not absolutely destroying him in terms of lap time, but he's just chipped away lap after lap. And no doubt Foster's been keeping an eye on that time screen and seeing it just come down bit by bit by bit by bit. So, yeah, I mean, I feel the pressure when I'm in last place, mate. So I'd definitely be feeling the pressure in first place, that's for sure.
There's nothing worse than when you're driving and you feel like you're giving, maybe not 100%, but, you know, 95% you're thinking, I'm hitting everything I want to, I'm driving the way I want to, and you're just looking at that gap and it's getting lower and lower and closer, and then all of a sudden the guy that was 6 seconds behind is now 2, and you're starting to think, oh hell, I need to step on the gas, but you know, you step on the gas and you don't pull away, the guy's still catching you. That's when pressure really starts to sink in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so easy to concentrate on other things, lose your head. I've just noticed that Beerhouse has got his windscreen wiper on. I wonder if it started raining again. We can't really see. It's he's gone off.
Is he round?
He's gone off.
He's gone off, yeah. Commentator's curse.
And
Foster won't be feeling the pressure anymore.
He's been pushing so hard, and that gap is now.
Shafts in the pits. Brunner's in the pits.
Can we go to passenger view to check?
It started raining, I think. It has started raining.
Yeah, it's raining.
Oh, look how slippery the track is already. Like you say, some drivers deciding to go for the pit stop and go for the tyres. Be interesting to see if he's got any grip through here. Oh, he's understeering all over the place. Oh,
he stays out?
He stays out. He stayed out. So Brunner and Sharp have decided to pit for wet tyres. Sorry, I couldn't get my words out there. So let's see who's going to be brave. I mean, 20 minutes, that's a long time in rain on dry tyres.
This is woken me up again.
Yeah, and I do wonder
this is 2008 Interlagos all over again. Are we going to get an Is That Glock moment?
We could well do. It'd be interesting, you know, I mean, like Arnold was talking about potentially, you know, running the wet tyres even if it was dry, if the track wasn't, you know, in optimum conditions. So maybe some have done that, so they could still be on wet, but I mean, they'd be pretty worn at this point. But it's definitely started raining again. You can see the drivers struggling. Lap times are going back up again into the 31s. Or are people going to risk it? Are they going to try and get to the end on dries? Are they going to pit? It'll be interesting to see this. Join Foster, who will be the next one to cross the start-finish line. Ash Humphries has decided to pit. He's gone for it. He's decided...
Morrison as well.
Yeah, Morrison's and Methison. Yeah, you're correct. So it's let's see what Foster decides to do. Is he? Oh, he stays out.
It's out.
There's out.
Okay, let's go back. I want to see what Bakehouse does now. I'm just curious to see what's going to happen because these guys are. I mean, Foster's doing. Bakehouse stays out as well. I mean, they're doing 34s, which they were doing in wet with wet tyres on. I mean, they've got a lap. For example, I mean, Humphreys in 5th place has just been lapped by these two because he has stopped. But I mean, a couple of times off the track, and you can lose a lap in no time. Especially in terms of pace as well. If the pace goes to wet times. Oh.
I have to say for Wes, I think this is the wrong decision. I think he should have pitted. I'd have just boxed opposite to Adam. I feel like he's got nothing to lose. Yeah, Adam might make a mistake, but you can't really gamble on that. You may as well gamble on going to an alternate strategy and, try something different.
I think it's England fairly behind him that are forcing this, actually, because he's thinking, well, if I do stop and they don't, I'm 4th. Whereas at the moment I'm 2nd and I was challenging for the win. And I think Foster might have made a mistake because suddenly 2 seconds came out of that time then, so Foster's made a mistake at some point. It's getting wetter and wetter and wetter. Foster is showing as a red lap time, so he's definitely been off the track. It's been invalidated, and he's lost 2 seconds on this lap alone to Wes. Oh, you can see the car is squirreling under braking. It's not happy, but he stays out again. Oh, I think one of these top 4 are going to end up pretty miserable. I think something's going to happen. I don't know, but you've got yeah, it's just
This is getting spicy.
It is getting spicy.
We wanted a bit of action. I don't think any of us anticipated it going back to wet.
Well, I mean, this is exactly what I wanted. I wanted that opportunity for, should you be on wet or dries. I was thinking more it would be more natural, staying on the wets and then going to the dries. But unfortunately, the track dried out right about the time they were going to do their pit stops anyway, didn't it? So it didn't really give us that action. But we've got it now with 15 minutes to go in this race. After it's starting wet, being dry for about an hour. They went on to dry tyres during their pit stops after about an hour of this race, so about 40-45 minutes ago. It has now started raining again. Everybody apart from the front 4 has stopped. I don't think Scott Balseeley has stopped the second time. No, Scott's only stopped once, so he's got himself up to 6 at the moment. And the top 4 haven't stopped again. Reed and Davis haven't stopped again. Weavers hasn't stopped again. Arnold hasn't stopped again. Humphreys has stopped. Brunner stopped. Schaff has stopped. Memphis has stopped. Morrison, Tonks and Humphreys have all stopped for wet tyres. So plenty of drivers braving it out. I mean, they're doing 37s now. I mean, they were 2. Brunner with the wet tyres on is still doing 33s. But obviously he's so far behind, like over a lap behind, he's not got the time to make that up. But does the track get wet to the point where the dry tyres just stop working altogether, boys, and then they just end up in the gravel every 3 laps? If that's the case, then they might as well have stopped. So that's the questions we've got to have answered. Oh, I'm rubbing my hands together.
I suppose now like Foster's that deep in now, he's got to commit, and I suppose he's got it all to lose, I suppose, because he's that far in now. He might as well just try and keep hold of it, I think, maybe. Might be completely wrong, but I think if I was Foster, I'd be like, well, I've committed to this, just let's hope he doesn't get too wet.
Yeah, I mean, if it keeps raining, I mean, let's just jump on board to make sure it is still raining. Yeah, it is still raining, so it's just going to get wetter and wetter and wetter. But Bakehouse faster in these conditions at the moment. He's got that gap down to 6 seconds at the moment. Let's just show you the timing difference there. So you can see the gap and gap to leader, and pretty much coming down a second a lap. So Bakehouse has still got time to bring this back. If they can both make this strategy work, then Bakehouse is the faster driver in these conditions at the moment. We're just going to jump with Brunner, who's caught up to the back of Balseeley. So Brunner, who lost the place to Balseeley, stopped for wet tyres. He's doing a 34 lap time, whereas the leaders are doing 38 and 39. So I mean, the wet tyres are obviously clearly by far the fastest option, as Balseely gives way to Brunner, and he gets past him nice and easy with a huge tyre advantage. Oh, he's 6 seconds a lap faster than Balseely with these tyres on. So, I mean, Brunner is 35 seconds behind Humphries, but Humphries also has wet tyres on. Yeah, it's... I guess the question is, if the track gets that bad that they have to pit, will these guys have made up that time and be less than a minute behind the leaders? You could see someone like Humphries or Brunner leading the race if they end up that the front guys have to pit. We will see, I guess.
It's certainly not over, is it, with 12 minutes to go?
No, I mean it's all happening. It's raining, and well, I think the rain might have stopped actually.
It has.
The rain has stopped, so the track might well come back to these guys. It looks like they might have had the right idea.
If the rain stopped though and these guys are pitted in, you've got to wonder what the forecast was telling the drivers.
Yeah, I mean it might rain again. You don't know. I mean it is set to complete variables. So it could well rain again. But at the moment it has stopped. But you can see the track is still very slippery. So.
Just a quick question: does anyone actually know like the exact time? Has anyone set it up so they know when it's raining, when it's going dry again, or not?
You can't. No. You can't do that. Basically, you just set the weather to what degree of variable you want, like 99% chance of rain, or 40% chance of rain, that type of thing. So you can set it so it will rain, but you can't tell it when.
Right.
So it's quite a clever system in that, like on Project Cars, you could say, well, it's going to rain in the first part and not rain in the second part.
Yeah, that's what I thought it might have been like, and I was thinking, obviously, if Foster knew, and I was going to be a bit like, is that why he stayed out, but also if he doesn't, then fair play.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. You don't know, basically. It gives you a weather forecast, like, real time for the next 30 minutes in the race, like you would get in real racing, but that's it, really. But no, you can't predict it, as Rich said in the pre-show when we were speaking to him, it's, with the same service settings, it had done nothing but rain all through practice, and then quali started. All through every practice all week is what I mean by that. So all the practice service with these settings, it had rained, and then quali started today and it was bright sunshine. So I mean, that's the beauty of it. It is totally variable, so it does keep it interesting, that is for sure. But that gap,
we need some more of these races. I'm enjoying it now.
Yeah, I mean, variable weather always adds that a little bit, and it's it's the same in real life as well, isn't it? Whenever you've got a bit of rain, it just adds that bit of spice to it.
I think there was a race I was watching recently where it's just started raining. I can't remember what race it was. It might have been a touring car race, but and as you were just saying, just makes it adds a bit extra bit of spice to it, I suppose you could say.
Yeah, we love it. I'm hoping it rains in Canada this weekend for the Formula One, as Canada loves a bit of rain. I always look back on Button's win in 2011 with great pride as a McLaren fan, and as one of the best races Formula One has ever seen. Absolutely epic. But it was all down to the weather. The weather makes it. But not that Canada's not a fantastic track anyway, because it is. But yeah, I'm just looking now. The lap time's coming back towards the guys on the dry tyres now. So Foster and Bigos doing 35s again now. Ingle 37, Philly 36. Humphries and Brunner are doing 32. So I mean, they are quicker on the wet tyres, but not to the point where they're going to catch and overtake those leading four. And with it appearing to have stopped raining now, it looks like they will be safe. Just jump on. There's definitely no rain on that windscreen now. It looks like that is it in terms of the rain, but there is still 8 minutes to go. Foster is just about to cross the lines, so that will be... that will be about 5-6 laps by my calculations. So coming towards the end, and plenty of action, gents, but it has sort of dulled down a bit this last half hour. I mean, the rain looked like it was going to make things proper spicy, and then it went and stopped, and it hasn't made it any spicier. But still, we had a bit of entertainment for 10 minutes, didn't we?
We did indeed. Has it started raining again? Did I just see specks of rain on my camera? No, it's just my wishful thinking.
I can't see any on the windscreen. Oh, that is Foster though. Foster's made a mistake. The gap's only 1.5 seconds. I'm going to jump on with Foster and do the replay, see if we can go back and see what happened.
And Spec says dirt, actually. I think I've just realised it's when the lights are shining on the camera, it makes it look like it's
yeah. So we're just going back because the gap is suddenly down to a second. So at some point Foster has made a mistake. And, so we're just taking a look to see what happened to Foster. Just jump on helicam so we can get a good view of it. It's just coming down towards. We just didn't get it slowed.
That's the concentration, maybe.
Possibly. Okay, let's jump on with Beercouse then, and the replay's still going on, but it'll end in about 15 seconds. But Beercouse going to be pretty close to Foster once this replay has finished, and let's see if he can make a move then. So we've got 6.5 minutes to go.
Someone's laughing in the background.
Just a few laps. Yeah, somebody had gone off.
Oh!
Just lost a little bit of momentum there with that little twitcher. Audi does look a little bit more assured than the Porsche, but of course that big. I mean, Beercouse probably would have been proper challenging for the lead if he hadn't had that big off. That cost him 10 seconds a couple of laps ago.
It's a shame, really, isn't it? But what can you do in unpredictable conditions? You can't anticipate stuff like that, can you?
No, not really is. Morris is back in the pits. I'm not sure if that is for tyres or drive-through. I don't know if he's retiring. I hope he wouldn't be retiring this late on. Might as well see it through, innit? Yeah, that gap just over a second now, and he's running out of laps to get this done. So there's going to be around 3 laps to go.
Whilst we're got a little bit of a quiet time, if you like, would you like a really dull, boring fact about the Canadian Grand Prix that I've been holding on to since you mentioned it?
Yeah,
Go on.
The 2001 Canadian Grand Prix was the first time 2 brothers finished 1 and 2 in a Formula 1 race.
Ah.
And it was Michael and Ralph Schumacher.
I could have guessed that. There we are.
I was born that year. Make you feel old.
I was 17.
I was 2.
I hate you both. I hate you both very much.
But by approximately the difference in our age.
Bad times. Bad times.
Should we go back to driver of the race?
Yeah, I was just about to say. Yeah, I think you know, we've had time to evaluate. You know, we did bring that up about 45 minutes ago. So a couple of laps left now, and we've had time to assess all the drivers. Yeah, for me, I'm torn between Brunner and Beercouse. I'm going to go Beercouse because Brunner did make contact with 2 drivers. His fault or not, taken aside, that for me is the reason that Beercouse is going to get it. My vote. Driver of the race.
Cool. Dougie, who's your driver of the race?
I'm torn between Foster and Bakehouse. the reason I was debating Foster now more is just because Bakehouse made a few mistakes. Don't mean any offence by that, but I mean he made a few mistakes, and I think if he's just a bit more consistent, he could be battling Foster and actually putting Foster under a bit more pressure. And it's also quite impressive Foster's managed to just go over best part of 2 hours now and just lead the race and just keep his head down. And he's had times where pressure has started creeping up on him. But for the sake of actually agreeing, I'd go Bakehouse. Bakehouse.
You don't have to do that. It could be that Aaron's thinking Foster, and therefore, 2-1. You guys majority.
I'll say Foster again. Go on. I'll go with what I think. I genuinely believe in Foster.
Go with you.
I believe in Foster. Yeah.
I'm leaning between Foster and a bit of a surprise one here because I didn't mention him earlier, Scott Balseeley. Because we've not seen Scott Balseeley feature where he is today, and we saw Scott feature pretty well last season, and we know Scott's got strong pace, but for whatever reason this season he's just not quite been there, and tonight he's been really solid. He's shown good pace, but I think I'm probably going to give it to Adam Foster for similar reasons of Luke. He's put a foot wrong a couple of times, but not in the same way that Wes has. I think that's the only thing stopping Wes from getting a vote, because of that big off he had. If he hadn't have had that big off, I think he would have got the vote, because he'd be right on Adam right now.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, ultimately that's probably cost him a chance of the win. And Adam showed great pace, and it's the first time we've seen him really boss a race in the Porsche, so I'm going to give it to Adam.
Okay, majority vote wins. Adam Foster gets your driver of the race, so you'll get an extra point in the championship for that. Dominic,
two drive-throughs,
yeah, and Brunner with a drive-through.
And Brunner.
Oh, so that Brunner will be... you'll lose 2 positions, probably come out in 8th. Ingle will probably just lose the 1, but that'll promote Fairley up to a podium. It's a great result for Fairley. But here's a question for you then, boys. If on this last lap Wes Bakehouse manages to close the gap and overtake Adam Foster, would you change your mind?
Yes, I would.
Yeah, I would.
I'm not gonna lie.
Because the reason I'm putting Foster as driver of the race is because of his consistency. So if he was to let it go now, I would probably change my vote. That sounds really hard, but I probably would.
Well, this is the final lap, so this is the time we will know. Wes Bakehouse has got the gap down to 0.7 of a second, and he's proper putting pressure on that Porsche, but he's got to close up the gap and make a move. It's not going to be easy in the time we've got left as we go down through the S's on board with Wes Bakehouse in the Audi. He shifts down through the gears, nice tight line, back on the power, up the hill. Has he got enough? He is quicker, but I don't think he's quicker enough, or enough quicker, however bad English you want to say it, to actually close that gap and make a proper move, unless he goes for a serious lunge into one of the hairpins. But you never know. And these two are always down to half a second now. Wes with a much better exit, so he's got the straight now to close up as Ingle drops down a position after making his drive-through penalty. Foster nice and clean through the chicane, but Bakehouse carries a little bit more speed. You can see how wide he ran there. Has he got enough in the tank? Has Foster got a mistake in him with just 2 corners to go? He hasn't, and he gets better traction in that rear engine Porsche out of Melbourne, and that looks like it is that. And your race winner, after 2 hours of grueling,
The leader has finished the race.
grueling racing, is Adam
fair
Foster, with Wes Bakehouse with a tremendous second place, and he kept Adam honest all through that race despite a few mistakes. A cracking result for those two. Great race from both of them, and fair play. And Dominic Ingle getting a drive-through penalty right at the end. He's actually right behind fairly, which I thought he'd be further back than that, but he's actually caught right back up, and I don't think he's got enough pace to actually overtake him, but it looks like Fairley is just going to hang on to that. So Fairley with a fantastic podium in the number 746 McLaren. Congratulations to him. And Dominic Ingle with that drive-through penalty just misses out on the podium positions on his return after missing the last set of races. Humphreys in 5th, Scharf in 6th, Bruner in 7th, Malsili 8th, Reed 9th, Mepherson 10th, Davis 11th, Weavers 12th, Morris 13th, Arnold 14th, Tonks 15th, Stevens 16th, and Humphreys in 17th. We lost Lanzalotta and Ricard pretty early on, unfortunately, which was a bit of a shame. But there you go. That is that. That was Donington. Well, we're just waiting for the drivers to come in and join us. Give us your thoughts, gentlemen. Dougie, what are your takeaways from that one?
I think that was actually amazing to see. Credit to the drivers, 2 hours of hard racing, changeable conditions into night, and then just to especially just keep it on the track and keep your head down for that amount of time is a credit. So, and it was very entertaining too, so it's great racing in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I thought there was a lot of battles. The top 10 were really, really close for a lot of it. We saw some great moves. We saw some mistakes. We saw some brave people in terms of tyre selection and etc. So it had a bit of everything. Aaron?
Yeah, I think on the whole for a 2-hour race, pretty good stuff. It's easy for GT racing to be on the boring side at times, but I think tonight with the changeable conditions, we proved that wrong, and it was a good watch. Yeah,
I agree, and long may it continue. And I thought that was cracking, and those 2 hours flew by, which is always good. I'm delighted to be joined in the comment box by a few of our drivers. And we've got Adam Foster, we've got Alan Davis, and we've got Rich Arnold in the comms box to do some interviews post-race. So thank you all, gentlemen, for joining us. That must have been a long evening for you, so I'm sure you're all shattered, so I'll try not to keep you all too long. But first of all, Adam, congratulations. Great victory. You must be relieved after seeing not once but twice that gap to Wes just disappearing lap after lap.
Yeah, I did get 3 track warnings, but apart from them track warnings, I had a faultless race really. So I'm quite pleased with that. The Porsche was really good in the wet and the dry. But yeah, like you said, both stints, I had Wes right behind me. Then for a time, Dominic behind me as well. But that last bit where it just started raining for 10 minutes, I could see Wes creeping up like half a second a lap, 7/10 a lap, a second a lap, and then I think it was 9/10 by the end. So yeah, Wes drove really well today.
Yeah, he really did. I mean, I think it was 3 separate occasions, because at one point he was about a second behind you. Then he made a mistake, and then it was 10 seconds, and then he got it back down to a second. And in the first stint before the pit stops, he was less than a second. So it was like 3 different occasions he managed to close the gap. So he had a lot of pace. But you won our driver of the race purely for your consistency, and you won that through your consistency, didn't you? So. And obviously pace as well. I'm not saying, but no, it was the consistency that won it for you today, I think.
Yeah, but yeah, consistency was definitely key. It was just no one knew what was going to happen in the servo. It was wet, dry, whatnot. But when it went dry, I thought it's going to be dry for the rest. But then that 10-minute spell, quite a few went into gamble on wets. Top 4 didn't, and it kind of paid off.
Yeah, I mean, we were at one point thinking, what on earth are these guys thinking? It looked absolutely treacherous. I mean, you lost like 11 seconds a lap at one point, and then all of a sudden it stopped again, and the track started to come back to you guys. So yeah, it was really interesting watching. The wet runners were absolutely rapid at one point, but as you say, the track came back to you guys. But fantastic victory, and it solidifies your lead in the championship as well. So
Yep.
yeah, on to the next one. But
Yes,
well done, mate.
lovely. Thank you.
Congratulations. Alan,
Thank
you had a really interesting race, Alan, from what we saw. We followed you for a fair bit, having good battles with Lloyd Reed, your teammate for a while as well. Mefferson was in there for a bit. Yeah, take us through your race.
Yeah, the first part of the race was absolutely mental, but at the same time really clean. I don't think there was a single bit of contact in that 4 or 5 way battle, which is brilliant to see, really enjoyable. It's great when you can trust the other guys. I was happy where I was. Being in the top 10 is probably reaching beyond my ability, if I'm honest. And then the rain, I was pretty happy with my pace in the rain. Gambled on dries at the end. I stayed out. I had nothing to lose, and I could see Mefferson reeling me in. I was just praying the track dried a bit quicker, but it didn't, so it got me just at the end. But yeah, it was really good fun. The second half of the race went quite quickly, but it is quite warm in this room at the moment.
Yeah, it's not much cooler doing comms, I can promise you. It's you still get a bit hot and heavy. We were all sweating a bit when it started raining, and all the pit stops were happening. We got rather excited, but yeah, I mean, you've been consistently sort of there, haven't you? You know, it was 8th, 9th, 10th this season. You know, you've been sort of there and thereabouts. You know, you've had good ones and bad ones, as all drivers have, but you seem to be there and thereabouts. So you must be pretty pleased with that, you know, for your debut season, particularly in a tricky Ferrari to drive as well.
Yeah, I'm quite happy where I'm finishing. Like I said, that's probably where my ability puts me at the moment. And I think I'm just being. Me and Rich often talk to each other through races, and I think I was saying today, sometimes I'm a bit too passive when I get cars try and pass me. I sometimes open the door a little bit too much, and I can just hear you guys in comms going, "Oh, he's just let him through," essentially. But
yeah,
I suppose I'm just trying to avoid those accidents.
Yeah.
As you get the confidence in the car, confidence in your driving, and the confidence in the people you're racing, you know, you be a bit more forceful in your defence.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll come with time.
Yeah, well, but you know, good racing, like you said. That you know 4-way battle just went on lap after lap, and it gave us some great entertainment. So some great driving tonight, mate. So well done. Just going to bring Andrew Fairley's managed to join us into the chat. A podium, a little bit out of the blue there, Andrew. I think you'll say with Dominic getting that penalty at the end, but again, consistency. You know, you were there, you didn't get a penalty, and you managed to get yourself up on the podium. So fantastic result. How did you enjoy that for 2 hours of torture?
First of all, my left hand is absolutely killing me. Yeah, I think I could have kept with the front three. Had I not had that, someone spanned me quite early on, and I think it was lap 2, maybe, or lap 3. But I was constantly setting the fastest laps in the wet as well, and then I don't know who I was trading it with, because someone else kept doing it as well. But yeah, it was so close when Dom came out the pits as well. It literally half a second. But I was on free warning, so I had about an hour and 10 minutes to survive as well, without getting another warning.
Yeah, we've all been there. But I mean, you must be you know, pleased with the podium, like I say. Especially after being frustrated, where you should have probably been there anyway, you know, had you not spun or had that spin happen to you. So yeah, you must be pretty pleased with that. What are your thoughts? We're going to Paul Ricard next week. Is that a track you enjoy?
I've never driven it, so I've only ever driven it on F1, so I'll have to learn it.
Yeah, so I think it's sort of different configuration, isn't it, in the GT? I think so.
Adam was shaking his head there. I don't know. Do we go to Paul Ricard next week?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, but the Porsche in a straight line, and that's got a big straight line.
I actually watched the Paul Ricard last week on the GT World Tour, so I kind of recognise the track.
I can't believe Aaron's doubting my knowledge there. I mean, I'm gonna have word with him in private later. But well done, mate. Great podium, and I'm really pleased with you. And
yep.
Last driver we got with us today is Rich Arnold. Rich, cheers for joining us pre-race as well. It was really cool getting to speak to a driver as he's warming up and doing his setup and going on the formation lap. So I hope we can do that again in the future. So
it worked pretty well, didn't it?
Yes,
so
yes.
Yeah, we would definitely do that again.
It was pretty cool. It was BTCC-esque. It was pretty cool. Dominic's idea, so we'll give him credit for that one. But it's been a frustrating season for you, mate, hasn't it? It just doesn't seem to quite be clicking in the Ferrari. Is it a car thing, or is it, is life getting in the way, lack of practice? What's happening at the moment?
First of all, are there any jobs going in the comms team by any chance? I think I'll probably do a better job being in there than I would driving the car. Frustrating tonight. Yeah, it's. I think it's the practice. I'm not getting as much practice in as I should or could. First race back after 2 weeks, so yeah, struggled more than I thought I was going to do today. It was good battles at the very beginning with Alan. I think Basili was there. I think Reed was in with that as well, and we were going for a good sort of 20-25 laps. And yeah, loved it. I mean, we were back at the pack, but it was brilliant racing. And then I ended up dropping back a bit and just found myself in no man's land, kind of on my own a lot. And at that point, sort of, you lose concentration. You just, you're constantly just following the same thing round again without sort of anything to anyone to race with. And I think just you got a bit complacent and made some stupid mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, it's good, like you say, it doesn't matter if you're battling for the lead or you're battling for 16th, as long as you're battling, isn't it? As long as you've got someone to race and fight against. But yeah, I'm hoping some luck comes your way, mate, and you have some better ones going forward. But if not, just keep your head down, get through the season, and come back stronger next year, isn't it? But
look, I'm not that down in the dumps. I still enjoy myself. It's 2 hours of torture, but I've got a smile on my face, so it's all good.
Yeah, I mean, 2 sprint races next week at a track that should suit the Ferrari. So hopefully some top 10 finishes for you in the not too distant future.
I very much look forward to it.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate you all joining me as always, guys. I'm going to call it a night there because I'm losing my voice after 2 hours and 40 minutes of speaking. But it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you so much to everybody who's tuned in to watch us. Thank you to all the drivers, and thanks to all the drivers that stuck with it despite the fact they were 8 laps down and really struggling at the back. Not rage quitting means a lot to the organisers and to us as commentators. So thank you for that. And it's been a pleasure as always. Thanks to my comms team, and we will see you guys next week at Paul Ricard.